Thanks. How about yourself?
Do what again, brother?
I'm doing very well. How about yourself?
Oh man, I can't hardly sit there and complain. I'll let you know how much better I'm doing by Sunday night. I can tell you that.
There you go.
So I need the Steelers to win this weekend. I need Buffalo to lose, and we can limp into the playoffs, and I'll be a happy camper. So
I'm going to the Miami Buffalo game. I'll be there. So
hold on. Mark is trying to send me something.
I'll text.
Okay, just some heads up for everybody, especially my MSPs. Mark Plessier will probably be joining us a little bit later. He's having some.
No, I'm here now, buddy.
Oh, you are on.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, I thought you were going to be bouncing out, brother.
Yeah, probably in about an hour and a half or so is when I need to be at that meeting. So.
Okay, well, hopefully everything is okay with your wife, dude. If there's anything you need from us, let us know, dude.
Thank you.
Good vibes and good thoughts will be sending in your direction.
I appreciate all of that. Definitely. Thank you very much.
For sure. I know that shit can be freaky as all get out, dude. You know, I had, my wife was in ICU a couple of weeks ago. She had COVID and she had asthma. So that's always weird when shit gets like that, man. So,
Yeah.
Good thoughts. If there's anything you need from us, Marky, you let us know right away if there's anything we can do, dude.
Thanks, guys. I
don't know what we can do, but we'll certainly do whatever we can.
Hey, there's power in positive thought and prayers. So I appreciate all of it.
I'm just not going to show up where you're at and shovel snow or move fucking furniture, just so you know.
Fair enough.
All right, guys. Do we have everybody?
Wait, Barry, before we jump in, did everybody get those the recording links? I sent them out to the MSPs. I don't have email addresses for all the other seniors in the other markets. But what I'm going to do is that takes about 30 minutes to process the video when we're all done, and then I'll send that out to everybody. Zoom uses AI. It's kind of cool. Like summarizes the whole thing, transcribes it, breaks it into little smart chapters. So I'll send that out to everybody once it's done, when we're done here. So if you need to reference back to anything that we went over, it's on there. And if anybody has any issues with those links, just let me know.
Okay, so Cam, I see you. Mr. Jenkins, I see you. Is Big Game James joined us this morning? I can't see him.
Not yet.
Okay. So, do what?
He's about here. He had car issues and he had to actually Uber over because he had to give his wife the car.
Got it. That sucks. Okay. So, all right, let's go ahead and get started so we can, be respectful of everybody's time. Got a lot to cover today. Again, the entire week, just so everybody knows, we're going to stay on steps 1 through 4. But as we go and each day goes by, we'll dive in a little bit more into each section of it and try to get on more on a granular level of things. Before we get started with that, typically what I do on day number 2 is cover a couple things first. So one of the things that I want to make sure that I cover and is really a big ask for everybody on this phone call. Okay. For all these, everybody wanting to be seniors, and even for the MSPs, who a lot of you are seeing all of this together at one time for the first time. I mean, I went into each one of your guys' markets and gave a quick crash course for 5 days. And, I've got a lot of phone calls is, what about this? What about this? How do we do that? Because it was a lot to try to digest in 5 days. And obviously we found out now, why this thing takes as long as it does. Okay.
Yeah.
But for our seniors that are going to be seniors now, whether you have a window background or you don't, whether you have a selling background or you don't, well, basically I'm asking from you all, as our MSPs are, and I'm asking this from the MSPs too, as shitty as this is going to sound, or as cruddy as this is going to sound, what I'm asking you guys to do is you have to put your life on hold, literally for the next 4 or 5 weeks. This is a god-awful lot of stuff to cover, people. This is a lot. And this first week is really, the baby portion of it. It'll get much, much worse in week 5 or in week number 2 when we start covering step 5. It'll be a lot more to sit there and cover. For those of you who have sold before, for those of you who have sold windows before, I can assure you this is going to be more and in-depth than what you've probably had somewhere else. Even if you did work at a place like Pella or Renewal by Anderson or Dream Style Remodeling or DeBella or something like that. Okay. We are going to sit there and be better. One of the mottos that Apex uses, which is something that I'm absolutely in love with, as most of you know, is the realization of energy efficiency through education. Now, Apex is great about saying that, but we've been a very poor company when it comes to actually creating and building expertise. I believe in my heart that expertise builds credibility. Credibility builds trust, and trust turns into business. Okay. Expertise builds credibility. Credibility builds trust. Trust turns into business. Now, for most of you that know me, you know when I sit there and I start repeating myself and saying the same thing over and over a couple times, you damn well might want to be writing that down if you're not doing it. You damn well might want to be. Okay. Because that's probably going to show up on a test. That's probably going to show up when I pass you in a hallway and ask you, hey, finish this for me, which is not past me to sit there and do that with everybody. Okay. And I expect people to sit there and know this. I believe being the expert is what makes the difference a lot of times from one place to another. Now, in my window career over the years and my time here with Apex, the question that's been asked to me quite a bit has always been, how does Renewal by Anderson, who is the most expensive window in the country, sell as much business as they sell? You know, I know part of it is because of the Anderson name. They advertise more than anybody. Well, let me let you in on a secret here. You're right. They advertise more than anybody does. They are literally the Coca-Cola and Pepsi of the window industry when it comes to advertising. But at the same time, too, the reputation that they have to be the most expensive window and door company in the country is also a huge reason why people do not call and get estimates from them either. We can't quantify what that number looks like, but I assure you it's huge. When I used to work with Renewal by Anderson, standing at line at Walmart or standing in line at Fry's or Albertsons or someplace like that, where somebody would see my Renewal by Anderson shirt, I can't tell you how many times somebody said, oh, you work for Renewal by Anderson. I said, yes, I do. You ever thought about putting a more energy efficient window in your home someday? Yeah, but we would never call you guys. You guys are just ridiculously too high. I said, have you ever gotten an estimate from us before? Yeah, no, I haven't, but you guys are just too high. I probably hear that 10, 15, 20 times a year, bare minimum, 30 times a year minimum. Mr. Jenkins out there in Salt Lake City, I assure you, if he was wearing a Renewal by Anderson shirt somewhere, somebody made that comment to him, I guarantee it. This company has never worked home shows hardly at all. I can't tell you how many times at a home show, somebody would walk up to my booth and I would ask, who else have you talked to? Well, I'm not going to talk to Renewal by Anderson. They're too expensive. So what Renewal by Anderson does that's better than most is they train people to be salesmen, is what they do. And that's what we're going to do here at Apex moving forward, is we're going to teach you guys how to be true window salesmen, to be experts in your field, because that expertise is going to build that credibility. That credibility is going to build that trust, and that trust is going to turn into business. Part of that credibility and everything that is built is going to be one of a couple different ways. Number one, we have to put the time in. A lot of things are going to come up over the next 4 or 5 weeks, football games and Super Bowls and birthday parties and anniversaries and all this other bullshit. But in the end, we've got to put the time in to perfect our craft. That's what we have to do. If that means you have to put your life on hold a little bit, then damn it, put your life on hold, because it's worth it. I'm going to call out Kate Gralton right now. That young lady out there in Seattle put up $350,000 last month in December. Number one, nice freaking job, Kate. That's tougher than an acre of garlic. It really is. Number two, she made over, and I apologize by throwing your shit out there, but I'm going to do it anyway. She made over $50,000 for the month of December. 50,000. 10 years ago, 15, 20 years ago, the only time I made 50 grand in a month was illegal as shit. I can tell you that right now. It was all illegal. Okay. So to make 50 grand, legally, that's a hell of a month, kid. And the only way you get that way is through very hard work. And the one thing I will say about Kate Gralton is She's got her nose to the grindstone at all times. I mean, this young lady sits there and is calling me at 11, 11:30, 12 o'clock at night. Shit, I talk to her more than I do my wife, for Christ's sake. Okay. But if that's what it's going to take, though, for her to sit there and be successful, for her to sit there and stay focused, then that's what she does. And that's what we're asking all of you. And that's what I'm asking all of you to sit there and do as well, is we've got to put forth that type of effort to learn this so we can be that expert. So that expertise can build the credibility that we need to build so we can get the trust that we need so people will move forward with us and buy windows. The second thing that we have to watch out for, and this is more tougher with fellas than it is with the young ladies for sure, is our appearance, guys. We have said we have got to look better when we walk in front of somebody's home and knock on that door, whether it be as a sales rep or as a canvasser. It is unfortunate, but we live in a world that people judge book by covers. It is what they do. Is it right? No. Is it wrong? You're damn right it is. But the reality is that's the world that we live in. Okay. And fellas, you know, guys like me where we have beards and shit like that, got to clean that up. Okay. We got to clean that up. If you have piercings, you're proud of your piercings, that's awesome. Get that shit out of your face and out of your head, though. You got to get it out because people are going to look at that. And that may be the deal that you walk away from. There may have been a $20 or $30 or $40 or $50,000 deal. I had a conversation with an MSP the other day. And one of the things that I shared with this MSP is right now, on average, and this is because of all the markets, it isn't just Phoenix, I probably receive anywhere from 12 to 15 calls a month, where somebody is complaining that some dude came to their door with jailhouse tattoos on them and, you know, all rough looking and all this other bull crap. What are they doing? I cannot tell you how many of those phone calls that I get. And this is not an exaggeration. This is serious business here. You know, most of these people that call in, you know, these assholes sit there and talk about jailhouse tattoos. And none of them know what even one looks like. They don't even know what a jailhouse tattoo looks like, but they're automatically going to say that crap. Okay. You know, I have heard from females reps tell me all the time, you know, Terry, it's tough to be a female rep. You don't understand what it's like. You're right, I don't. I don't know what it's I don't understand what it's like to walk in a house and some fella trying to hit on you and all that stuff. But here's what I'll also sit there and tell you. The young ladies, you don't know what it's like to be fellas either, though. Okay. None of you have to sit there and shave your beard. Nobody sits there and walks up and opens up the door and says, oh my gosh, there's a threat here. There's a dude standing there. Because what most women don't have that problem. They open up the door and it's, oh, there's a young lady standing here. Well, come on in. You know, fellas, we don't get it like that. So there's pros and cons to both sides, but we still have to have our appearance has to sit there and be better. People judge book by covers. That is just the way that it is. So we've got to make sure that our cover looks good. You don't have to spend a lot of money to try to look sharp. Okay. Look, guys, most of you all know me. And every time you see me in a pair of jeans, or you see me in a pair of anything other than Dockers or slacks. Most of you sit there and take pictures of that shit. Is, wow, I've never seen you do that. Look, I wear jeans too. I have a pair of shorts at home also. I've got tennis shoes also. But in front of you guys, I try to look a certain way, and I don't spend a lot of money to do it either. I'm not a guy that'll sit there and spend $100 for a pair of pants. That'll freak me out. My wife spends $100 for a pair of pants for me. I'll lose my shit. I just don't do stuff like that. But I still try to look sharp in front of my customers and keep my nails clipped. And every time I wash my hands, I sit there and put cream and shit like that. We have to make sure that we clean our cover up, whether it be walking in a house or crushing doors. Because unfortunate as a fella, people look at that different than they do a young lady. Okay. That's just the way that it is. So I'm not here again. I don't want to make this a big, you know, personal hygiene thing because, you know, Terry's, you know, king daddy GQ. That's all bullshit, man. But what I am sitting there saying is let's clean up our appearance a little bit for some of us guys. You're going to want to sit there and you see it'll hurt you. Piercings, things like that. Get them out just for the time that you're there. I'm not saying that you don't have to. And this whole I want to be who I want to be bullshit. Okay, that's fine. But don't let it cost you money, though. Don't do that. I mean, that's just nonsense. And I can't tell you how many times I've heard a rep say, well, I am who I am. Either people accept me the way, or what a line of bullshit. What a line of bullcrap that is. Don't let it cost you money because you want to stand on your morals. Because I'm a guy that likes to wear piercings or whatever. Get off of that. You're trying to make money here. Don't let it cost you. Don't let it cost you because we're lazy or we're trying to prove a point. We're not going to change people's minds. We're just not. And unfortunately, people are going to look at us that way. So that's all I want to say about that. That's usually what I cover in day number 2 before we get started. So I want to make sure that we go ahead and cover that. And again, let's study. The hardest thing there is to teach a rep is to do their homework. And your homework is a lot. I can't cover everything for you in a training class. I just can't. The first thing I would do if I was all of you, veterans and newbies alike, figure out who your main competitors are, okay? Chances are your main competitors in your town is going to be Pella, Renewal by Anderson. Look, Renewal by Anderson is the number 1 competitor for everybody. They're everybody's number 1 competitor. They command 48% of the dollar volume in the United States when it comes to selling windows. I don't care how expensive they are. That is just the way that it is. The sun rises in the east and sets in the west, and there's not a damn thing we can do about it. And there's not a damn thing that we can do about Renewal by Anderson being who they are. We can't match their money. Nobody can. So none of us are going to be able to advertise as much as they do. But we can beat them at the kitchen table, though. We can do that. We can outsell them. We can tell a better story. So companies like Pella, Renewal by Anderson, DeBella, depending on what part of the country that you're in, figure out who your top 4 or 5 companies are in your town. And let's get out there and find out what type of window that they have. Let's learn about their window, okay? The key here is to know as much about their product as they do and to make sure that you know more about your product than they're going to. With those 2 things, when you walk into a house, knowing that will make you way, way better, okay? It really will. There's a senior on this call now that I remember called me up a few months ago asking me about Champion Windows, okay? Well, kudos to him for calling. That's awesome. But here's the funny part, though. If everybody, including him, if we studied our competitor more, we wouldn't have had to make that phone call. The good thing is he admitted he didn't know and was looking for help, and that's awesome. That's what everybody here should be doing, is ask for help and don't be ashamed to ask for it. But at the same time, too, we have to know who our competitors are because they know us, I assure you of that. The better ones are going to know us, okay? So learn who your competitor is, what brand of window that they carry. What is it that makes our window better than theirs? I don't give a shit what makes their window better than ours. All I care about is pitching what we have that they don't. And that's what we're going to learn how to do here, is how we're going to sit there and pitch what makes us better over everybody else. Truth be told, nobody makes the best window in the window industry. Nobody. I don't give a damn what Consumer Reports says. Consumer Reports is full of crap, okay? Let me give you an example about that. In 2019, when Consumer Reports tested windows, the number 1 vinyl window in the United States was a 250 series vinyl window put out by Pella in 2019, okay? The number 1 composite window, of course, was Renewal by Anderson. Number 2 was Pella also, because their fiberglass product is not a true fiberglass product. It is an actual composite. It is a fiberglass composite, which is a difference between fiberglass, which is put out by Marvin, and it's also put out by Milgard, okay? Those are always going to be the number 1 and number 2 companies when it comes to composites because they're the only ones that make a composite product, all right? That being said, in 2020, though, when they redid it for that year, the 250 series vinyl window put out by Pella didn't even make the top 10 when it was number 1 the year before. So why is that? Because in 2019, the 4 things that they tested about the window caused that window to test out higher than everybody else's. But the following year, when they changed up the 3 or 4 things they were going to test, all of a sudden, those 3 or 4 things that they tested, all of a sudden wasn't as good as other windows were. So another window came in with a higher rating. Consumer Reports doesn't test everything on the product. They only pick 2 to 4 things at the most, and that's it. And it's how those 4 things test out will determine what it is. For every positive thing you can tell me about fiberglass or Fibrex, I can give you a negative thing about it. For every positive thing you can give me about our window, I can give you a negative thing about it. Okay, that's the way windows work. So knowing what our competitors are doing and how they do it, knowing their installation, knowing do they have a constant force tension coil closer on their double hung windows versus a block and tackle versus a self-lubricating spiral spring. Those make differences, okay? Do they have pockets at the sash, or are they using a slope sill on the sash or at the bottom of the sill, rather, in their double hungs? Okay, that makes a difference. The thickness of the glass makes a difference. The thickness of the spacing in between the 2 panes of glass makes a difference, okay? Who here on this call has sold windows before? Somebody shout a name out. Anybody? I can't see you all at one time, so somebody shout.
Norm
I'm sorry?
Jenkins, renewal.
Check this out, Jenkins. So I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit. This is not a pass or play type of test, but I just want to sit there and see what your thoughts are. If I were to ask you to tell me the spacing in between the 2 panes of glass, how many are there and what are the spacings?
How many different spacings are there?
Yes, sir.
In the market.
I believe there's 6.
What are they?
7/16, 3/8, 15/16, and I've drawn blanks.
Okay, so we'll leave it at that for a quick second, Mr. Jenkins. Who else on this phone call has sold windows before? Shout a name out. Tall Matt out in Dallas. I know you've sat there and sold windows. Are you there, brother?
Yep. I sold windows a little bit.
Okay, give me the spacings. What are they?
So I'm gonna say 1/2 inch, 1/4 inch, 3/8, 5/8, 7/8, 1 inch.
Where did we learn that at?
From Mr. Carey.
Right. So here's the thing, guys, that I'm trying to get at. Okay, I can see you, and I can see my man in the back. Where's James Harden at?
He's sick this morning.
James
Said
Harden
he'll
is
be
sick.
back tomorrow.
Yeah, see, he got the idea that Shorty was going to come and want to play basketball with him, and all of a sudden he got sick to his stomach, right?
Carey.
So here's the point I'm trying to make. Here we have 2 gentlemen that have sold windows for over a year, give or take. And this is the same question that I have asked, and most of the seniors that are on here that are veteran seniors when I first got here, I asked that same question. The funny thing is most of them didn't know either. And these are window guys. These are our experts, right? But the spacings that are in there, it starts out at a 1/4 inch. Then there's 1/2 inch. You've got 3/8, you've got 5/8, you got 3/4 of an inch, you got 7/8, and you have 1 inch. That spacing in between the 2 panes of glass causes that window to perform differently. The bigger the spacing, the better it performs until you get to a certain spacer where it actually becomes a bad thing depending on the type of gas that's there. Okay. What kind of gases are there in between 2 panes of glass? Anybody shout them out. How many are there? Anybody?
Krypton and some combination of the 2.
There's 4, right? You've got argon gas, you have krypton gas, you have an argon gas, nitrogen gas blend, and then you have what they call an alpha 10. Alpha 10 is argon, krypton, nitrogen, and 7 other gases that they don't want to sit there and tell everybody what it is. Okay. Again, the average window guy doesn't even know this. And the reason why some of you know what you know when you shouted that out is because I was in your office and I told you. Other than that, nobody knows. This is where we take advantage of our competitors, because we're going to know this shit when we walk in this house. And these people are going to sit there and say, oh my gosh, this is the expert. Okay. In the past, for some of you guys selling windows, when somebody sits there and asks you and says, oh my gosh, that's expensive, why are you guys so much? I was expecting it to be cheaper. Holy cow, this is a lot. Tell me if this sounds familiar. Well, Mr. and Mrs. Customer, the reason why that it costs so much is because this is a proprietary product. because nobody in the world has it. Because we've got this kind of a warranty. Because our windows can sit there and bench press a giant gorilla, you know, and a car and all this other bullshit. Because we've been around for 100 years plus. Typically what we do is we defend it by sitting there telling everybody how great we are and we pound our chest. Okay. The better way to go is to sit there and say, is, hey, look, the reason why you're paying is more money. You're paying more money because of me. Part of it is because of me. We're a lot like the military. We spend a tremendous amount, and we're not guarding our borders or anything like that, don't get me wrong, but we spend a lot of money to make sure that guys like me are out here and that we are the true blue window experts. That's who we are. You're going to know everything there is to know about windows today, so you don't have to research anymore, so you can make and have the best informed, be able to make the best informed decision today, because my little ass is here. Because I'm here. Because we spend a lot of money to make sure of that. Because I'm the guy that can tell you that this is a 1/4 inch, and there's a 1/2 inch, and there's 3/8, 5/8, 7/8, and 1 inch. See, I'm here to tell you that. I'm here to tell you that this is a difference in spacing. When you have a 1 inch spacer with this versus a 3/4 inch with this, here are the challenges that you have. Okay. We're going to explain to these people the difference, why you have to have gas. Okay. The average person, tell me if this sounds correct to you. What is argon gas? Argon gas is an insulator you put in the glass. It helps cut back on UVs and it helps cut back on sound type of bullshit. That's the typical answer that everybody gives. What a load of crap. That is incorrect and not the way it works. Anybody tells you any different is full of shit. That's all I can tell you. They're full of crap. So how do I know? Well, number one, I spent 5 years as a national spokesman for the NFRC. That is the portion of the government that regulates the energy efficiencies for windows. Uncle Sam spent a lot of money to make sure I knew windows. I am a true blue window geek. No bullcrap. I am a true blue window geek. Okay. Argon gas isn't even an insulator at all. Adding argon gas into a window does not change the UV or the solar heat gain coefficient of a window at all. We'll cover that in the future so you guys will know what that is. This is the expertise I'm talking about. This is how you outsell everybody, is we become the expert because that person will trust us when we do because of the credibility that it builds. So that's what you guys have to do. Do your homework. Learn who your competitors are. Get a list of who your top 4 or 5 companies are, and let's build a deal to figure out what that is. What makes our warranty better than their warranty? These type of things there. So that's what I mean by putting our lives on hold for a little bit, and let's sit there and learn. So is that Kate's not the only one making 50 grand in a month. Okay. Because if Kate's the only one making $50,000 in a month, I'm going to have to hear this shit for the next year. Nobody's caught me yet, Shorty. Nobody's caught me yet. Okay. And I don't blame her, because if it was me, I'd damn sure enough be doing it too. So that being said, anybody have any questions about that before we get into this? Anything at all, please?
Can you go over the types of gas and what they are again, real quick?
You know what? I'll mention that one more time there, boss. And then let's go ahead and leave it for next week, because that's when we're going to cover it. But I brought it up, so it's a fair question, right? You have argon gas, you have krypton gas, you have what's called an argon gas nitrogen gas blend, which for the most part, the only company that really uses that the most is going to be Renewable by Anderson. And then you have an alpha 10 gas. Alpha 10 is a combination of argon, krypton, and nitrogen, along with 7 other gases. And they won't tell you what the other 7 are. That is a proprietary glass. Primary company that really uses that is a company called Bristol or Winchester Industries, just outside of Pittsburgh. And they sell a triple pane product also. Okay. So, did you catch that, brother? Are you good?
Sir, thank you.
All right, brother. All right, so check it out now. Let's get back into the first part of it. Again, I don't want to beat up on this, but we really do have to know these 3 closes, because they will help you get into houses when people are trying to port you. Okay. Keep something in mind here for a minute. Okay, if we break things down here real simply, our junior partners are out there beating doors. Okay. Most of you in here have been a junior partner before going into a senior partner role. And there's a couple of you on here that's never been a senior partner or junior partner that's going into the senior partner role right now. And we'll work on your junior partner role later, okay? But for those of you who've crushed doors, one thing is for sure, we all know it sucks as all get out, is to be walking the doors out there, beating the streets, in the heat, in the cold, in the wind, you know, getting doors slammed in your face, people sitting there telling you I'm not interested, threatening you to sit there and say, look, if you don't get off my porch, I'm gonna have my dog bite you in the ass. I'm gonna call the police, whatever it may be, okay? And there's nothing more frustrating for that person to set that appointment when they get one, and then Mr. or Mrs. Rep show up. And because somebody is pushing back at the door a little bit with, man, you know what? I wish I didn't set that appointment, man. You know, I was thinking about it, and my wife and I, we can't even afford to pay attention, right? If paying attention costs money, we can't even afford to do that. So we're not going to be able to buy windows. And then for a rep or a senior to sit there and say, oh, okay, you know what? I understand that. Well, listen, we'll give you a call when you're ready. Or why don't you call us when things change for you, and then walk away. What a shitty effort that is. What a shitty effort. All right. The junior busted their butt to get that appointment. The least we could do as seniors is give that senior everything we've got, because they did the best they could to get the appointment. We're supposed to be the better talkers here. We're supposed to be these sales reps. That is who we are. Then damn it, sell yourself into that appointment, because the junior deserves that. He or she sat there and beat those streets to get that lead. The best you could do is give them the best you've got. So somebody sits there and tells us that. We can't just sit there and take that, okay, they're broke. How the hell do they know what they can and cannot afford? Now, half of you on this call say, well, they know their own finances. That's bullshit. For all they know, we can do windows for $30 a month. $30 a month, guys, that's $1 a day, for crying out loud. That's what it is. Everybody here, if I put a gun to your head and said, you better find me $30 by the end of the month, and you can't look in your wallet, you could walk around and look in your cup holders, your seat cushions at home, in your car, walk around a freaking parking lot at Walmart, and you could find $1 a day if your life depended on it. You could. We're not talking to most people that are that kind of busted, but we can sit there and show a $30 or $35 a month payment. They may not be able to do their whole house with it, but at least it gets them started. But we can do that. We have the ability to put that kind of a payment in front of somebody. We do. So these people don't know what they can afford and what they can't. What I can tell you is we do the best we can to get in that door. We give the best presentation we can possibly give. And who knows, when we're done, if we give a masterful presentation, people will beg, cheat, borrow, and steal to get the money to sit there and put the windows in if we do a masterful job. But it starts with getting in the door, and we have to cross the threshold, and we've got to get past all the excuses. So when that customer is sitting there telling us, look, I can't afford to sit there and do crap, I understand that, Mr. Customer. I do. You know, it seems like it takes more time, you know, it takes time and money to do everything. And we always have more time than we do money. At least I know I do. However, that being said, though, I rearranged my entire schedule just to be here, folks. And I made a special trip to do that. I fulfilled my end of the obligation. I showed up on time. All I'm asking you to do, folks, is fulfill your end as you agreed upon when you set the meeting. At the very least, allow me to at least get paid. Let me show you the window. Let me measure the window. And let me at the very least give you a price that's going to be good for a year. What you do with that price is going to be up to you. Now, that sounds at least fair enough, doesn't it? That sounds fair. We at least want to go down that road and give it a shot. Give it a chance. Okay? Maybe the guy sits there and says, fine, that's fine. You know? Now the guy, they happen to sit there and say, well, you know what? Tell you what. Just tell your work that that's what you did. And if they call me, I'll let them know so you can get paid. Oh, boss, I can't do that, partner. I mean, I appreciate that you would do that for a total stranger, but check it out, though, sir. If I were to do something like that, sir, if I would, that's dishonest and that's stealing. So when you ever get around to go ahead and doing something like this, how comfortable would you feel to sit there and deal with somebody that lied? This is a company that takes care of me and my family, and I lied. could you honestly look at me in the face in the future and sit there and say, this is a company I feel comfortable with and a good person I feel comfortable with dealing with? Could you really say that, sir? You know you can't. So though I appreciate you saying that, I can't really do that. But I'm here and you set the time aside. Again, let me show you the window, measure the window, give you a price that's good for a year. Be your own better judge after that. That's the least I can do. At the very least, if you can just do me a big favor, just keep an open mind. If I can help you out, great. And if I can't, at the very least, we'll shake hands and part to be buddies. Again, that sounds fair enough, right? So these 3 closes we have to know because we are going to use them more than you think. We're going to. And for those of you who are current senior partners right now, for those of you who have sold windows in the past, how many times did you get pushed back at a door or in the living room and then got pushed back out? If we would have just went down that road, how many of those could we have saved? We're not going to get all of them. But you know, if you save 4 or 5 or 6 in a year, even if it's 6, if you've got, say, a 50% close, which a lot of you on this phone call have right now, that's 3 deals. Average commission in most stores is over $2,600 a deal. So 2,600 3 times, hell, I can count, that's $7,800. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't walk down the street if I see a bag filled full of money and it says there's only $7,800 here. I don't look at it and go, yeah, $7,800, that ain't worth my time, and walk down the street. I'll let some peasant pick it up. Is that what we do? I watch people sit there and jump up and get giddy over a $5 bill. We're certainly not going to walk past $7,800. And that's what happens when we don't give it our due diligence. And not only that, it's not fair to the junior partner that is out there busting his or her ass. Not fair, not cool. Not cool. Because if the roles were reversed, how upset would you be that you knew that your senior gave up at the door or in the living room like that? That's chilly as all get out. I would have a problem with that. And you call ourselves teammates. I would have a problem with that. Not very teammatey to me. Okay, so we've got to know these 3 closes, and you got to memorize, and you'll find, as you saw me do here, I use the special trip close and the open mind close at the same time there. Okay, there's going to be times where you're going to do that. There's going to be times where only one of them is all you'll need, or you may use all 3 at one time, depending on what they're telling you. Okay. That being said, we've got to know this. We have got to learn this. We've got to memorize this. Starting tomorrow, we will start doing role playing on this very step right away. And more so probably towards the end of the day or end of this meeting, we're probably going to do that. And I'll let you guys have your time to do that. And I'll step away from here and kill the meeting down early. It just depends on what happens and how we're going right now. But this stuff by tomorrow, you've had yesterday to look at it. You're going to have tonight to look at it. By tomorrow, though, we have to start being able to role play this out. This is something you have to go through over and over in your head a little bit because you're not going to use this every single day. But it's important that you know it when the day comes and you have to do it. Okay? It's important when the day comes and you have to do it. Any questions about this portion right now? Anything on how to navigate through this? Why do we say this? Why do we say that? I would prefer to say it this way. Throw it out there. Look, guys, participate here, or I'll start calling everybody's asses. Don't think I won't. Okay? Participate. It's the only way you're going to know things. Participate. Because my ass is going to chatter like a chipmunk whether you sit there and do shit or not. So you might as well sit there and participate and start saying some things, and let's find out what it is that you want to do or don't do, or what you agree with or not, or whatever. But ask, guys, or I'm going to start firing everybody up.
Well,
So-
I mean, like, how often would you say that you had to use this in a normal market? This is not something that I've ever had to really use in the door.
Well, so
But
that's a pretty smooth question, Mijita. That's real smooth. It's a good question because, see, in the Apex world, because we literally hand selected and we literally made sure that most people we were talking to, right? Look, hand selecting a house doesn't determine if these people want windows or not. If that's the case, then have 100% demo rate, 100% close rate, right? But we knocked enough doors and we only set appointments with those people that are basically telling us, you know what? I have thought about windows. So you probably use something like this in the Apex world 1 to 3% of the time in an entire year. Maybe that, maybe. Because we're going to doors now where we're knocking just about every door now, this is something you're probably going to have to use anywhere between 12 to 13, 14% of the time. Okay. Because again, we are knocking doors where nobody thought about windows until the day we knocked on that door. Okay. So you're gonna get into that a little more often. You really are.
Okay.
However, at the same time, too, the advantage to this versus what we used to do is now we're no longer walking away from business and walking by a house that would have bought had we just knocked on the door. And I think now every market has now seen that now for sure. Every market now has seen it, you know. So again, pros and cons to it. There are pros and cons. But you will see it more often, Mijita. You're probably, if I was guessing, somewhere in the 12 to 14% of the time range, baby. Somewhere right.
But I think that's why you're not getting a whole lot of questions, because we're like, oh, okay, we do this, because we're just not familiar with it, yeah.
It is, I mean, Mr. Jenkins out there in Salt Lake City, because he worked for Renewal by Andersen, he can sit there and tell you for sure, because Renewal by Andersen or not, you get pushback at the door, you get pushback in the house. There is no doubt about that. There is no doubt about that. Okay. I don't know if in Salt Lake City they canvass as aggressive with Renewal by Andersen out there as they do with the Essler Group, which is in Texas and in Arizona and Colorado and whatnot. But when it comes to canvassing for Renewal by Andersen, nobody does more canvassing than the Essler Group does. Nobody, and it's not even close. So in those areas there, we saw this a lot more because their philosophy is a whole David Yoho philosophy, which is, you know, you take 5 or 6 no's before you go type of thing. So certain people get beat into submission at the door. But then they finally set that appointment, which is why some of those perform as bad as they do. The approach that we're taking here at Apex now, at least for the Western region, I can't speak for the Eastern region because they don't agree with this. But on the Western region, our approach is we're going to knock just about every door, the obvious stuff. I mean, the crack houses, we obviously want to leave alone. And, you know, the houses that you get out there and it makes your skin stand up, you know, walk past that house. Okay. We don't have to knock on every door. Or if the windows have already been replaced, then we're going to walk past those. But past that, though, we're going to knock every door. The only difference here is I don't believe in the philosophy of take 3 or 4 or 5 no's before you go crap. Because all these markets that are on here are big markets. They're not small marketplaces. Okay. I mean, you've got Phoenix with 4.4+ million people in it. You've got Seattle with over 3 million, Portland with a boatload of people, Dallas with a shitload. I mean, there are 7.4 million people out there in the Dallas area. With as many millions of people that are out there, beating everybody up just to get an appointment doesn't make sense to me. So we're going to find out in about 18 to 20 seconds, typically, if this is a door that we need to be on or not. And if it's not, then get the hell out of Dodge and go knock the next door. There are millions of people out there. You don't have to beat everybody up. Now in Tucson, when we were canvassing out there, different story. There's 562,000 people in Tucson. You beat everybody up. You don't have a choice, because if not, you'll be working the same neighborhood every 3.5 months. Okay. You'll be working the same zip code every 3.5 months. You know, the place is the size of a phone booth compared to all these other markets that we're talking about right now. Okay. So for those of you who do not know, what will be being taught is, number one, is our approach to the door. So let me cover that real fast for you guys, because I don't think it's quite clear for everybody. Number one, what we're doing is we're bringing in a canvas manager for every location. What we're going to call the canvas manager yet, hell, I don't know. Everybody, you know, some people want to call them managing junior sales partners. Matt wants to call him a junior sales partner specialist. David wants to call him a junior sales partner, you know, secret squirrel, whatever. Okay. I don't give a shit what we call them. However, their job is to do nothing but hire. Now, I have put a number on my MSPs that by the end of May, there must be 30 canvassers on that roster. If there's not, Shorty's gonna start looking for somebody to go and argue and fight with, okay? We need 30 bare minimum, that's what we need. My goal is for all you seniors on here is to literally sit there and I need you to be running 32 to 35 appointments a month. 32 to 35 is not a lot. That's about 1.5 on average a day, working 5 or 6 days. Okay. So this is not a lot. I'm not trying to sit there and work everybody here to the bone. But at the same time, too, though, we also have to get a bare minimum of $84,000 a month out of each and everybody's kids in order for this program and everything to work like it's supposed to. Okay. Our approach to the door is going to be different than what we're looking at right now. I expect my juniors to look sharper than what they do now. This bullshit about running around in t-shirts and jeans and holy crap, that shit's getting ready to go away. I'm not saying they all have to look like Mark Wahlberg, you know, the underwear guy, but a nice pair of pants, a shirt tucked in. At the same time, too, they're all going to wear high visibility green vests. They will be wearing a lanyard with a badge and their picture on it. They will have a clipboard in their hand, because when you see that person knocking on your door, what you don't see is you don't see Jehovah's Witness, you don't see Mormon, you don't see salesperson. The first thing that comes to mind is gas, water, or electric. That's what comes to mind. Most people won't open up the door and see that person standing there saying, look, I'm not interested, and close the door. They're at least going to want to know what you've got to say because of the way you look. Which, if that buys us about 10 to 15 seconds, that's all we need. When that door opens up, we will introduce ourselves. Hi, my name is Terry Hewen with Apex. I want to stay away from Apex Energy Solutions because there are too many people that hear that and they think we're solar, especially out here in the desert Southwest. Everybody out here is energy something or other for solar. Okay. So we will sit there and say, hi, my name is Terry Hewen with Apex. I apologize if I caught you at a bad time. But the reason I knocked on your door is we are talking to all of our Seattle homeowners, and we're asking one survey question only. That survey question being, have you ever thought about putting a more energy efficient or secure window and door on your home someday? Now, we know it's not going to be today. We get it. But someday. And then we'll see where that conversation goes from there. Okay. If that conversation is, yeah, we've thought about it, but we're just not going to do it right now. Awesome. Let me ask you a question. If there was one thing about your window you wish was different or you wish you could change, what would that one thing be? Well, I wish the window looked nicer. I get it. You know, my wife always says looks isn't everything, but has to account for something, right? What else would you sit there and say about your window? There's our natural icebreaker right there, guys. We're 18 seconds or so into the presentation, and we're already into a natural icebreaker where we're not trying to sit there and come up with something cute to sit there and say that we can comment on or whatever it may be. Okay, so 18 seconds into it, if they're going to at least give us that, then we can do that. Customer sits there and says, well, I've never really thought about it before. Okay, if you've never thought about it before, let me ask you this question then. If there was one thing about your window you wish was different or you wish you could change and you had the power to do it, what would it be? Let's find out what it is. Once we get that one thing, then we ask what else. We're not going to sit there and ask, really, tell me what's wrong with your windows. One thing and one thing only. Asking somebody to give you multiple answers is too big a question. Asking somebody to give you a one answer question, way easier. Then we can follow up with what else. From there, the presentation will be very much like the Apex program now anyway. Well, that's part of the reason I knocked on your door. We do not advertise TV, newspaper, radio. What we do, however, is this, and then we're going to go into that. The thing that's going to change, though, is that scale of 1 to 10 bullshit or whatever it is, that crap's going away. I don't like that garbage at all. So we're not going to be doing that. The other thing that we're not going to be doing at the door is we're not telling people two things. One, we're not telling them that the installation is free. Not only is that bullcrap, but it's a bull-faced lie. And we're not going to lie. And number two, what we're not doing anymore is we're not telling everybody that we're going to give them, you know, how does it basically go, right? You know, by giving all of this,
market value.
we're gonna absorb all of these.
Oh!
Okay. we're gonna absorb all the installation costs for you, and at the same time, we're gonna give you a discount on Insignia, bringing your total savings to 58.5%. That 58.5% bullcrap, that is 100% going away. We will not be saying that. If we find out that a junior is saying that, then you let your respective MSP know that, so your MSP can sit there and put a bowl of grapes in the freezer, freeze the grapes, and then throw them damn grapes at that person. Okay? We will not be saying that. That puts the rep in a very tough spot. That puts the rep in a very tough spot. Okay? What we will be saying is when we're showing the portfolio is, here's our master installation program. However, by doing this, we're going to absorb a portion of your labor. At the same time, we're going to give you a discount on Insignia itself, bringing your total savings to 30 to 35% or even more. It just depends on the number of units you're doing and what can be seen from the street. That puts the senior in a much, 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 much better position right there. Much better. Okay. Apex has always taken the road that everybody that we're going to talk to is have Renewal by Andersen come out to their home. Well, that's a load of bull crap. Now, all of you that have been in SSP here, that's a lie. It is. So when you run across that company that's not Renewal by Andersen, and we go ahead and give that $10,000 price, when somebody else sat there and gave them a price for $11,000, all of a sudden, all the credibility that we built at the door and through that presentation, it's not 58% off. That puts us in a tough spot. Okay. So we're not putting reps in that kind of spot anymore. You guys are not going to be put in that kind of spot anymore. Again, if a junior is doing that, then we need to know about it. And like I said, there's going to be a bowl of frozen grapes waiting for them when they come into the office the next day. That's all I can say. Okay. We've got to get away from that, and we got to put ourselves in a better position to succeed. Okay. We got to put ourselves in a better position to succeed. So that's how that is going to work. Just so you guys know, that's how that's going to work. So that's the look that we're going to be going for when we go to the door. That look should buy us an extra 10, 15 seconds or so. It is something that I have used in the past. There's also another company out there called the Tony Hody Group. They are a canvassing company. For the most part, it's how they go to a door. The only difference is they tend to sit there and use the orange high visibility vests. I like the green better. One, green is Apex's color, and number two, orange I associate with the criminals and the convicts that are out there sitting there picking up trash on the side of the road. So I don't want to do that. So that's what I associate with. Okay. Anybody have any questions about that look, about that approach, what we do or do not like about it? Anything at all?
You mean 30 per market or 30 for the region by May?
30 per market.
Thank you.
Yep, you're welcome. So here's the deal. As a senior partner, you guys have two options here. As a senior, you're gonna have two options. Option A, okay, you can sit there and do it the Apex way, meaning you can hire your own canvassers, hire, interview, train, and have your own team that strictly works for you and you only. Now, keeping in mind the drawback to that is you're the one that has to source it. You're the one that has to train. You're the one that has to interview them. You have to train them in the office and out in the field. When they're struggling, it's up to you to work with them. That's your team. That's your team. And because that's your team, whatever it is they sell all belongs to you. And if you happen to have an extra appointment that another rep could use, that rep sells it. That's a 50-50 split right there. That's your team. However, for those of you who do not want to go through that, and I can tell you right now, most reps that I know do not want to do all that. If you want to be the kind of rep that says, hey, look, I want to sit there and I want to just run leads, I don't want to mess with any of that crap, fine. Your canvas manager is going to have 30 canvassers at their disposal. That's going to set appointments, and make sure that our reps are trying to get into more houses. But when that job sells, the junior gets paid like they usually do. So this is what we're used to. The only difference here is is that's gonna be a 65-35 split now. 65% goes to the sales rep, 35% goes to the canvas manager. Okay? This is non-negotiable. But that's what we give up when we don't sit there and want to do all those things. And I don't blame the sales rep for not wanting to do it. As a rep, I wouldn't want to do that crap. I don't want to have to babysit a bunch of kids. I don't want to have to sit there and go beat on doors and crush doors and work. I me personally don't want to do that. Not on a daily basis that way, and go out and sell windows as well. I don't want to do that. Now, if you sell at the margins that we have that we are starting to sell at now, for sure, okay? The industry standard commission is approximately 8 to 10% of your contract amount, depending on who you're working for. So to give you some numbers here, Renewal by Andersen pays out anywhere from 8.5 to 10%, depending on what market that you're in. Dream Style Remodeling throughout the entire company pays 10% of the contract amount. Pella pays 8 to 8.5%, as high as 9, again, depending on the company you're with, the market you're in. Lifetime Windows and Doors pays 9%. Okay, so 8 to 10% is industry standard. What I've done is I've made it so if you guys are selling at a 36% margin and you float in that area there, then after your 65-35 split with your canvas manager, you're going to be looking at about 9.4, 9.3, 9.6% commission based on the contract amount is what it'll average out to be. You start getting into the 41s and the 42s and the 40s and higher, well, your commission is going to be well above industry standard. You're starting to get into the 13, 14, and 15%, okay, which becomes better coin for sure. At the same time, too, you can go out and, again, you have to get 2 ARCs a month, right? So those 2 ARCs a month, you're not splitting that money with anybody. That's all yours. So not only are you saving the $600 at least, because you're not paying a JSP out, but you're also saving the other 35%. There isn't a salesperson on this call that has ever been a Windows sales rep somewhere else that at some point in time during an interview that will ask, what do you pay for self-gens? What do you pay for that? Most companies pay about 3% extra. This dollar amount comes out to be well above 3%. It's disgustingly above 3%. Disgustingly above. Okay. So that's how this program works. You still can sit there and have your own team. So you don't have to split shit. But with that option comes all the responsibilities that Apex has always asked. And for some of you who have never been a senior partner here before and now are coming on for the first time or are a junior wanting to be a senior partner, you might want to sit there and get with your current senior partners and your MSPs and ask how difficult that can actually be. Okay. Typically, what you get is you usually get one senior partner that has one junior partner. That's a major mistake right there, just so you know. I believe that all seniors should have at least 3 to 4 juniors. Because if you only have one, then that means you're one COVID problem away, the flu away, one car accident away, one vacation away for actually having nobody on your team. And you're crushing doors on your own now, or you're scrambling to try to hire somebody to sit there and get people out in the field. Okay. However, the choice is yours. And either choice that you make is the correct choice. It's up to you. All right. So for those seniors that have been here before, I'm not taking that away from you. What I am doing, though, is giving you a different option that you can go. And then you just have to outweigh the two. Okay. Having your own team as a senior, well, that's a lot more responsibility. Therefore, you should make more money to do it. At the same time, too, not doing any of those things and having somebody else do all the training and all the hiring and all the interviewing and all the door crushing and all that, well, there's a lot less work on your end. Therefore, the commission on it should be less as well then. Less effort, less commission. More effort, more commission. That's basically the way this program is going to work and will work, is going to be this way. Any questions about that at all? Anything from anybody?
Where does the JSP pay come from? Does it come from the 65 or the 35?
It comes from neither one of them.
I'd ask you a question.
It's a good question too, because every single person that I've gone over this with have asked the same thing. Heather asked, Matt Duncan asked. It doesn't come from me, it comes from both of you. The way it works is, let's say you do a job, the commission comes out to be $2,600. The $600 comes out of the 26, and then the 65-35 is split with what's left over. Okay, by doing it that way, neither the JSP or the senior takes the hickey. If you sit there and you split it 65-35 and then try to pull the money out, the hickey is pretty big for somebody. It's going to be pretty big. Okay, it's going to be pretty big. So it comes out first, and then we split with the balance 65-35. All right. I've ran these numbers over and over again. Please feel free, guys and gals, when you get home tonight, run those numbers and see how you feel about it to be able to see. But it is the most fair way, is to take it out first and then split what's left. That's what's most fair.
Real quick, Terry, if anybody wants that spreadsheet that I made, that I sent to you, just to show you all the ranges, I can send that to anybody too, if they wanted to see it, just so that they can see the breakdown and the percentages all on there, and all the ranges and all the costs. So if anybody wants that, just let me know.
Yeah, thanks, Cody. So Cody and I were talking about this the other day, and obviously I am not very tech savvy. That's an understatement. So, I do everything the old fashioned way with a pen and a calculator. And Cody said, look, I can help you out real quick. And he came up with a spreadsheet that literally took him like 15 minutes while we were talking on the phone, that will actually show different margins and different amounts of commissions and that split and how it works. That's actually pretty nifty. But I will tell you though, in the end, taking the 600 out first and then splitting the money, much better way to go for both the junior manager or the canvas manager and the rep. That you guys get paid better that way. And the JSP is still taken care of properly, like he or she is supposed to be. So good question, D. That was a good question. Okay.
Harry, over to us. This is Jimmy in Dallas.
Yeah, what up,
That
Jimmy?
spreadsheet that he made. What's going on? Hey, can you have Cody send that out, or that spreadsheet?
Please, that'd be great.
Yeah, I'll just email it out to everybody. I'll email it out to all the MSPs and they can disperse it out to the senior.
Thanks, Cody.
Thanks, Cody.
Cody, can you roll into the screen again like that? That was really cool, man. You just came in and then you just kind of went back out. That was really cool.
It's a different kind of electric slide or moonwalk or whatever. Okay, so that's basically the door program and what we're going to do and what we're going to say. I don't think.
Okay,
You know,
the King's gonna, and the canvas just gets the 600. Okay.
what was that question? Speak out loud.
Sorry, I was talking to Kim about the breakdown on the 65 or 65-35 deal. And I was asking him, so they get the canvasser basically would get 600 plus the 35%. And he was just re-explaining to me, no, that the canvas manager gets the 35 and then they still just get only the 600. Is that correct?
Roger that. That is correct. Okay. So, again, we're not really changing a whole lot of what Apex does and how they pay out. What we're changing is just how the money is dispersed. That's all. Okay. There was a question that was asked by Bryant, who is, for those of you who don't know, he is going to be the canvas manager in Portland. And, he said, look, Terry, he goes, I've done the math on this. And the bottom line is the highest paid person in the building is going to be the canvas manager. I said, hands down, that's going to be a fact. If the canvas manager is doing their job, that's a fact. They will be the highest paid person in the building, regardless of how good the sales reps are doing. That's going to be the highest paid person. Fact. Okay. Will they change the pay program? Well, why would we though? We're going to pay out the commission no matter what. We're paying the same dollar amount. All we're doing is just dispersing it differently. That's all. So why would we change it? The only way that we would change that is if the company decided to change the comp plan for the sales rep. then yes, that would change. But past that, the money is gonna be, it's $2,600. That $2,600 is either gonna be paid to a senior and a junior, or we're gonna take the same 2,600 and split it up amongst 3 people. Either way, it's not gonna change. So the company doesn't care how we split it, as long as what we're doing is taking care of everybody. That's all I care about, is everybody being taken care of, okay? Now, keep in mind, there may be an adjustment in how we split those monies up moving forward in the future. If these changes are gonna come about, you're probably talking about a 1 or 2% change, because, and I'm getting a little ahead of myself on this, but I've had this conversation with some of the MSPs already. The likelihood, for example, we're gonna sit there and take Big Game James out there in Salt Lake. The likelihood of him being able to sit there and manage 30, 40, 50 canvassers is very, very slim, okay? You've got to have awful big shoulders and a massive bandwidth for that shit, massive. So what he's gonna have to do, along with everybody else, is you're gonna have to develop field team leads, field supervisor, whatever you wanna call them, right? Give them whatever name you wanna give them. So the way I've always done it is I've always broken down in 10s, okay? When I have 30, that means I need 1 team lead and they're gonna have 9 canvassers, okay? But with more responsibility for that person, we've got to be able to pay them a little bit differently, okay? We got to pay them a little extra. So what we'll use is, again, we'll move the commission around a little bit, where it may be one of these things that, you know, the senior may have to sit there and give up 0.5% or 1%, and the junior, the canvas manager may have to give up 0.5% or 1%. So now this team lead is making, you know, 1% on the dollar volume or whatever, on the commission that's left over, or 2% or 3%, whatever it is we need to make it fair, without sitting there and having the senior or the canvas manager take a hickey, okay? It may be a dollar amount. It may be, you know, you lose $25, the sales rep loses $25 on their commission, and the canvas manager loses $25, so that the team lead is making $50 per deal sold, or whatever it may be for their team. So there's just no upfront, there's going to be a change in it, but it'll be very tiny, because again, nobody has to take a big hickey on this, all right? What I don't want to do is I don't want to make it so nobody's not making any money here. The goal is here to make a boatload of dough for everybody, okay? But for the team lead, I think it's fair that they make an additional, say, $50 a deal or $100 a deal for what their team sells, and it shouldn't have to cost the sales rep or the manager a lot. So we would do it the same way. Let's just say it's $100. Then instead of taking $600 out of the commission, we'll take 7 instead, and then split what's left over 65-35. In which case, then that $100 goes to that team lead for that deal, and Mr. or Mrs. Rep don't get hit hard at all. Nobody gets hit hard.
Now, with that, would that be something that would be negotiable between the canvas manager and that office per se, or would that be something that'd be uniform no matter where?
Yeah, so when we get to that point there, that's going to be a call that I will get all the canvas managers on the phone call. I will get all the MSPs on the phone call and myself on that call. And we will sit there and decide what that's going to be. Again, the important part here is to make sure that it's fair for everybody. But off the top of my head, taking the $600 out like we do now and splitting what's left over is the best way to split that. So giving the team lead an extra $100, taking it off the top and then splitting what's left is probably going to be the better way to go. We can negotiate all day long, but that's probably going to be what's better. So again, the junior or the canvas manager or the senior is not getting beat up, okay? Truth be told, as bad as this is going to sound, Big Game, this is going to sound horrible, brother, but it is what it is, man, and I don't mean it in a bad way. I'm more worried about the sales rep, and the reason why is because the sales rep only lives in the one deal that they sold, whereas the canvas manager lives in every deal that's sold from there, okay? So, you know, I got to make sure, and we have to make sure that the guys that are bringing in the bacon which is our sales reps, right? I mean, our juniors, they set all the food up, but in the end, the chef cooks the meal. And the chefs that we have right now, those are our seniors, and they cook the meal. So preparation is great, but you have to have a cook, and the cook's got to sit there and make the meal. So I don't mean that to sound bad, brother, just so you know, I don't mean that to sound bad. Okay.
No, I've been a sales rep. I agree completely. So I think that's a good idea.
Okay. So that's how that's going to work. Does anybody have any questions about that before we move forward? Anybody at all? Fire away. Very good. Anybody have any thoughts or concerns about this? Anybody bothered by this at all? Very cool.
I'm bothered
Okay.
by how stupid money.
Do what now?
I said I'm bothered by how much stupid money is available.
Yeah, it's pretty insane, man. I actually use, so just so you guys know, I actually use Manny's number. So Manny's a guy named by the name of Manny Calciega. He was my last canvas manager at Dream Style Remodeling. By going over what he did, because I keep all of my shit from everywhere I go, okay? On their program there, Manny last year, if he was working this program over there, last year, Manny would have made $612,000 last year as the canvas manager. Okay. If he did the same thing here that we did over there, he'd have made 600, just a smidge under 612. It came out to be like 611,008 something or other. So close enough to call it 612 for crying out loud.
So when
Okay.
does he start?
Do what?
I said, so when does he start?
Well, Manny is the guy that some of you guys may know about already. Remember when I was, for those of you who are around, remember when I came up to Portland and I was supposed to be bringing two guys with me and they got into that real nasty car accident? That was Manny.
Oh.
That was Manny and his cousin, Chino, or not Chino, but hell, I've been calling him Chino forever. I don't know his real name. David. David is his real name. Chino has a deal on YouTube. I think he calls it Chino Bass, Chino Bass 520 or something like that. He's a big bass fisherman freak, and he does all these videos and crap. And that's what he calls himself, as Chino Bass 520. At least I think that's what it is. But that's the guy that got into that real bad car accident. Yeah. So, and he lives in Tucson and was able to do everything from there. But Manny is not the same cat anymore.
Oh, no.
So that's the reason why. But Manny would have made 612 last year on this program. On this program. And I say last year, I mean 2022, guys. I'm sorry. I forgot that we're now in January, not for 2023. But in 2022, this program, he did 612,000. So anyway, that's how that's going to work. So you seniors will have options as to whether you want to have your team or not. Okay. So it doesn't take away from anything at all from you. Okay. So let's get back into this thing. So we don't have any questions at all about the three closes, correct?
I had a question. I know it's super rare that this is going to happen, but the special strip, we're saying at the very least, let me get paid, show you the window, measure the window. But then if we get into the agenda, they're going to be like, you're giving me this agenda. That's not what you just said. So what are we doing there?
Well, it actually is. I mean, what we're just sitting there saying is, if you think about this for a minute, is look, folks, here's basically what we're going to do when I come out here, right? I'm going to sit and visit with you for a second because I got to figure out what it is that you're looking for, right? You said you're going to do windows someday. You just can't do them now. So in order for me to go ahead and price anything up anyway, I've got to pick your brain and figure something out. Number one. Number two, I've got to inspect your windows so I get an idea of what I'm dealing with, so I know how to give you a price. I can't turn around and give you a price, and then next thing you know, 7 months, 8 months later, you give me a call back, and your price is $400 a window more because I didn't inspect the windows and see what was wrong. Just like you don't go to a doctor and say, look, my tummy doesn't feel well. Here, take these bag of Quaaludes and you'll be okay. you got to go through some sort of an inspection and answer questions so they know how to sit there and give out medicine, right? At the same time, too, nobody is going to buy anything from anybody without knowing who the hell that they are. So we have to be able to explain to them who we are as a company, so you at the very least, know who you're dealing with. You got to at least know that. And then from there, we got to be able to show you the product and do all that, because again, nobody buys anything sight unseen. Then I'm going to go ahead and give you that price and do what I tell them to do. So we can walk through that. We just have to be a little cautious about it if somebody sits there and gives us any heat. That's all. That's all we got to be able to do. So you give that agenda and you give it out. The guy says, well, that's not what you said. Well, sir, if you think about this for a quick second, I mean, again, I'm going to try to be respectful of your time, because I'm hoping that you're going to be respectful of mine. Keep in mind, guys, a knife cuts in both directions, okay? A knife cuts in both directions. This business about a customer is always right. That's bullshit. The guy that came up with that from Burger King should have the crap kicked out of it. Okay, Burger King started that crap that the customer's always right. That person should have the shit kicked out of them twice a week for the next 2 years. That's bullcrap. The knife cuts in both directions. We were invited to their home. They set up an appointment. We went out there and did our job, and we showed up. And now they want to sit there and change their mind. Whoa, wait a minute, hold up. That's bullcrap. My time is worth something too. Your time is worth something too. For a customer to sit there and say, look, I don't want to sit here and I don't want you to waste my time here. Whoa, wait a minute, hold up for a second. So I understand that, but keep in mind, your time is no more valuable to me than mine, or to you than mine is to me. I came all the way out here, man. I see you have to drive 24 miles to sit there and get to your house. You didn't have to do that. So that knife cuts in both directions, guys. You don't get pushed around at the door either. Now, I'm not saying to pick a fight, but what I am sitting there telling you is we're nobody's Rocky doll either. You guys aren't Rocky dolls. You don't get to get beat up out there. You just don't. So we have to be able to explain to a customer, hey, look, boss, check this out. I know I told you all that, but that all comes with it. Look, I have to be able to pick your brain for a minute to figure out what it is you're looking for. How am I supposed to price up if I have no idea? You know, if that's the case, so I'll just come up with, Albuquerque. How about that? I'll just tell you Albuquerque. What does that mean? Nothing. But without knowing anything, that I might as well just sit there and tell you this cost Albuquerque. I might as well just say that. So I've got to be able to pick your brain. At the same time, too, I got to inspect the window so I know what kind of price to be able to give you. And then from there, you have to know who you're talking to. You have to know who you're dealing with. And then after that, we'll give you all the mini window options. I'll make some suggestions. You tell me what you think is best, and then we'll get these puppies all measured up, and you go about your business and I'll go about mine. Now, that's 100% completely fair, seeing how you drug my dumb ass all the way out here. We're allowed to sit there and say that. You probably don't want to sit there and say dumbass, but we can sit there and say, at the very least, sir, I believe that to be fair, seeing how you set the appointment and I drove all the way out here. Now, if you want to lie at this point, then lie. Sir, I drove 600 miles. I fought a pterodactyl and a giant crocodile in the front yard to get to this doorstep. The least you can do is sit there and let me go through this, because the pterodactyl I handled pretty easy. But that damn crocodile, he was really pissed off. But I made it, and here I am. That's the least you could do. Look, if you want to joke around about it that way, you can. I would. I said, oh, come on, folks. I drove all the way out here, boss. Look, I fought a crocodile in your front yard. Let me tell you what, for a minute, I thought he had the better of me. But I made it, so the least we could do is do this, this, and this, boss. The least we could do is that. Man, if that's what you got to say, then try it. What's the worst that can happen is they sit there and tell you to kick rocks, because that's what they're trying to tell you to do now is kick rocks. So what's the worst that can happen? They can tell you kick bigger rocks. Everybody here has been thrown out of better places in somebody's house. I assure you of that. And if you haven't, you've had no fun in your life, I can tell you that. You've had zero fun, okay? So, again, the knife cuts in both directions. An appointment was set. We did our part. We showed up. The least we could do is expect them to do theirs, as they agreed when they set the appointment, as they agreed when the appointment was confirmed the day before. Okay? The least they could do is sit there and do their part. And the least you could do is put that on them. So we put it on them using it this way. And as you get better with this, you'll learn to add a little bit of some of that color stuff in there. Like I said, I do it. It ain't past me to sit there and tell somebody, damn, boss, you drove me all the way out here, man. I sat there and fought 2 elephants and a crocodile just to get here. Come on now, don't be like that. Least we can do is this. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes people sit there and tell me, look, I don't give a shit. Damn, you like that? You know what? You don't need windows anyway, and I don't want to sell them to you anyway, you deadbeat. You know, now I'm not going to say that, but that doesn't mean I won't think it. You know, that don't mean I won't think it, but we've got to sit there and we've got to put our best foot forward, and price cannot be the excuse. Standing there saying, look, we're cheaper there, but that cannot be the excuse. That is not the reason people buy. That is not the reason people buy. And for those of you who think so, you need to get that shit out of your head right now. Price is not why people buy. If they did, Renewal by Anderson's asses would be out of business. Ferrari would be out of business. Lamborghini would be out of business. And the list goes on and on and on. So price isn't it. That's bullcrap. That is such bullshit. Okay. We got to give them reasons why. And part of that reason why is we made a special trip. So why are we saying special trip? At the door, our JSPs have to learn to start saying that when they're buttoning appointments down. I told you this yesterday. They need to say this as they're buttoning down. Look, let me see if I get this correct, Mr. and Mrs. Blaylock. I am showing, or Mr. Blaylock, I'm showing you on our senior sales partner schedule for Friday at 6 o'clock. Now, Friday at 6 o'clock, being a Friday night, that's not like a club or a church or a bowling night for you folks, is it? That's going to catch everybody home okay? Yes. The only reason why I'm saying that is my senior partner doesn't come out unless we had a definite meeting set up for him. And we rearrange their entire schedule and they make a special trip just to sit there and be here on time. Now, when I say on time, that's 5 minutes early or 5 minutes late, but this is not like the cable guy. They are going to be there. That being said, are we still good? So they hear special trip right there at the door. They also hear rearranging the schedule. They hear that there. So when you come on board and they start to push back, then we're going to follow back up with what they already heard once before. Hey, look, sir, I rearranged my entire schedule just to be here. I made a special trip to do so, partner. Okay. I fulfill my end of the obligation. I at least showed up on time. Man, all I'm asking you to do, that's all I'm asking you to do, is at the very least, fulfill your end as you agreed upon at the meeting, when the meeting was set, and when they called you the day before. At the very least, allow me to get paid. Let me show you the window measurement when I give you prices good for you. What's good, you know. What you do with that's up to you. Does that sound fair enough to you? Okay. So when you say that at the door, Matt and everybody else, this will not be the first time the customer hears this shit. This will not be the first time. Okay. When we confirm that appointment, confirmation basically is going to go this way now. Your confirmation isn't going to start probably for another week or two, because I actually have not worked with our MSPs or our canvas managers yet, because we don't have canvas managers in all locations. But at the very least, the MSPs, and they haven't been worked with on this yet. Okay. So the basic confirmation basically goes like this: ring, ring, ring. Mr. Blaylock. Yes, this is Mr. Blaylock. Hey, Mr. Blaylock, my name is Terry Hewlin. I'm the managing senior partner for Apex Energy Solutions. Wanted to go ahead and give you a courtesy call, sir. I'm showing you on my senior partner schedule for tomorrow night at 6 o'clock. Wanted to check a couple things, number one, and make sure that life hadn't gotten in the way between now and then. So it's tomorrow at 6 o'clock, so they're going to sit there and catch everybody home okay? Yes, it will. Great. I'm showing an address here of 1234 Disneyland Lane, in, I don't know, BFE, Oregon, with a zip code of 79925. I'm also showing you've got 4 windows on your house. Let me ask you a question. I would assume, sir, that you're not living in a teepee for only 4 windows. How many total windows are in your house all total? And I'll explain why in a second. Well, there's 19 windows. We can't do all of them, so we're only interested in 4. And I get that. One of the things that's going to happen when Jimmy Johns comes out there to sit there and talk to you, Jimmy's going to sit there and sit and visit with you for a quick second, okay? Kind of pick your brain. At the same time, too, what he's going to do is he's going to inspect all of your windows so he can get an idea of what he's dealing with, because there may be a possibility that something going on somewhere else in the house could tell him about something he can't see with the 4 windows you're actually interested in. Okay. From there, once he's done with that, he'll possibly point out some challenges that you may or may not know that you had. And then what he's gonna go ahead and do is offer some temporary solutions if he can, that you can use until you eventually get around to doing this. He'll tell you about the company so you know who you're talking to, give you the menu window options that you have. He'll get these puppies all measured up and then go ahead and fulfill the obligation that the junior had set there and or that so-and-so told you at the door, which is to go ahead and give you that low promotional price that we were talking about. But at the very least, if we can't partner together at the time, we'll go ahead and give you that price. It's gonna be good for a year. So tomorrow night at 6 is still gonna be good. Is that what you're telling me? Yeah. Okay, we'll go ahead and see you then. That's basically how that confirmation is going to work. Okay, that's basically how it's gonna work. For those of you who have never had a phone room before, for Jenkins out there, Jenkins will probably sit there and tell you that's a stronger confirmed appointment than what you got, Mr. Jenkins. And that's stronger than what you got out at Optimum. You were at, oh no, Expo. You were out at Expo, right, Matty? Okay, that's a stronger confirmation than you got out at Expo. All right. Typically confirmation is, hey, look, I'm showing you on the schedule for tomorrow night at 6. We're still gonna be good, right? Okay, well, we'll see you later. And then that's it. We will get into that type of a conversation there. Okay. Once we have everybody on board and we have all of our canvas managers too, then confirmation is going to be split and it's going to be done between the MSP and the canvas manager as well. Okay. But we will start confirming appointments here pretty quickly before you guys start running. Again, we want to make sure that we put our, one of our, our 3 biggest assets for this company is our sales reps, our canvassers, and our installers. Those are our top 3 assets right there. Without one, we can't do anything. Okay, without one, there's nothing that we can do here, right? Because we choose to go to market with nothing but canvassing, we don't have the luxury of the other companies of people calling in, TV, newspaper, radio, stuff like that. So our 3 major assets are our canvassers, our sales reps, and our installers. Because without either one of those, we can't do anything. Like pretty much period. We can't do anything. Okay. So we want to make sure that we're putting our assets in the best spot that we can. And I don't want them driving all over God's green earth either. But will there be times that an appointment will not be confirmed because we can't get a hold of somebody? That possibility exists. Okay. Depends on when the appointment was set. If the appointment was set within 72 hours or less, if we can't get a hold of that person, chances are we're still probably going to run it. However, after 72 hours, I'm going to tell you right now, if that damn thing's not confirmed, we ain't running it, period. Because after 72 hours, leads just perform poorly. They just perform bad. Okay. So we'll go ahead and work on that as we continue to go ahead and move forward. Again, this is very, very familiar for me, but it's very unfamiliar for everybody else on this phone, on this call, at least for most of you. So you're going to have to let us work out some of the bugs on this, guys. Let us work out some of the bugs. And you guys are going to take a hickey here and there for it. Again, sometimes you're the bug, sometimes you're the windshield. We can't always gripe about being the bug if we're not going to gripe about being the windshield also. Okay. So unless anybody has any questions, I have a time right now of 10:01. Let's take that 10-minute break so everybody can stretch their legs and do what they've got to do. And we'll jump back on at 10 minutes at 10:11. I'll see everybody back. Unless anybody has questions before I go. Sorry about that.
I have a question. Since your screen pops up with a little thumbs up and you stick your thumb up like that, when you're saying something negative, does it work when you go this way?
Oh.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
I did. I tried that. It hasn't done anything yet.
What about this? What's this do?
That's what I'm trying. It's not doing that.
I think it was good out here. I don't know. No, so doesn't work. Do the fireworks again. Yeah.
Okay, so
Thank you for that.
it's 10:02. It's 10:02. We'll be back at 10:12.
All right, don't touch your iPad.
No, I'm not touching anything, brother.
I was gonna grab that.
I mean, at one point though.
I watched.
I missed the question.
It's-
Well, the question was.
Oh,
Why are we
we did?
trying on the porch, when we've been porch, why are we telling them that we're getting paid?
I know, see, that's where I feel
We're
like
asking
disingenuous.
for, but we're not.
No, it's also the way you look at it. All I'm asking is you give me an opportunity to get paid. The opportunity to get paid is the opportunity to sell the job.
Oh,
You
okay,
know.
well, see, it doesn't say, this says by allowing you to get paid. I
Yeah.
like switching that to
Okay,
the
you can say it, but
opportunity.
even allowing me to get paid is still selling the job. If you don't get into the house, you can't sell the job, but then allowing you to get into the house, you have the opportunity to sell the job. So allowing me to get paid doesn't necessarily mean guaranteed to get paid. You know, if I go run a deal, that's gonna allow me to get paid. But I'm not guaranteed to get paid because I'm not selling. But I'm in a position to get paid, you know
How
what
do
I'm
you
saying,
feel
so.
about those words though?
35K.
Oh, nice.
I know, the first time I read it, I need to like go over it more.
I'll get $51 bills for a roll of quarters, and I'll give you guys a quarter for every job that you do that on, and you don't get, so you have to get paid, so you can say, honestly, that's a big hold up.
You should be that, so.
Is that?
So if we don't put the camera seats,
That's what they're-
It's grand. There's two of them, there's other.
I just was like.
Yeah, that was out of here.
I know. We're doing better asking questions today.
Yes, you are, I'm proud of you guys. I was gonna bring it up before the meeting, and I forgot to.
I'm surprised, I take, I don't like not meeting now, I mean, I used to love it, but. Self-gens are nice. Cause you're kind of the face the whole time, you know, you talk to them at first and then, so it's kind of nice. Kind of mixes it up every now and then too.
Yeah, it sounds like that.
Actually, there's two guys coming in today for to be amateurs. They're hired, so we'll have those two.
Nice.
I have a girl that's coming in at 3. She was a canvasser for
Oh, really?
yeah.
Oh, nice.
I don't know if you have this over at Anderson, but well, you didn't have any cancers, but the girl cancers do really well.
Oh, I would think that, because I can tell you, when people come out, I'm like, oh, I'm not.
Yeah.
Like, I get the hell out. I don't scream and yell at them, but I usually,
Not enough.
yeah, within 20 seconds, my door's closed.
Yeah. That's how I've always been. Now doing this, I'm a little bit more. better,
But most of the canvassers that come to my neighborhood for whatever reason are solar people. And honestly, solar panels are a freaking racket. It's a gimmick. It's an absolute waste of time. I lived in Vegas for 17 years and solar really kind of started down in Phoenix, Arizona.
Right.
And then it migrated up to Vegas and I was a home builder there, so I looked into it pretty heavily. I did all the math. It takes 10 years to pay off those solar panels. So in 10 years, you're not making your dime. And so 10 years in one day, you finally are saving money. Well, the chances of those solar panels lasting 10 years Slim to none. But man, they have exploded. People are, there's a lot of guys making a lot of money off solar panels.
Oh,
But you're just transferring money. Yeah, you're not giving it to the power company, but you're giving it to the solar company. So what's the difference?
exactly. Well, I think every city's different. A lot of it, that's why, that's why a lot of the solar people are trying to leave now, because nobody's buying anymore.
Yeah, well, Utah got rid of the tax credit.
Oh, that too.
Yeah.
I don't ask for much. I just want what's fair.
But I feel good, like I don't feel like, yeah, I mean, I was able to sleep. I attempted to get my alarm.
Yesterday, I tripped almost, like, last night, but I stopped smoking. Is that why you get quick?
Ew.
Oh, I'm super.
No, he's cool.
Yeah.
I like it. I like it. You wait like 250. That's so crazy.
Normally I'm like 190.
What? So we do our measurements. Do we have someone go back and check them?
So.
Yeah, so after the job. And the paperwork's turned in and,
Yeah, our budget got cut off last month, so.
turns in the.
Okay, almost time. Hey, Jimmy's Johns, are you there, buddy?
Yeah, I'm right here, what's up?
You know what I was just thinking? You know, another cool name now would be Double J. I like that.
Oh, okay, all right.
Yeah, I like that. Double J.
Measuring
So
outside to outside.
I had a buddy of
Inside of
mine
the house.
years ago
Out to out.
named Jess Johnson, and that's what I used to call him, is Double J. So let me ask you, Jim,
Never.
obviously with you, you know, with you coming back, how do you feel about things so far, Jimmy? I know it's different, a little different, but how are you feeling so far, you yourself?
For me, I mean, it's just learning a whole new program. So for me, it's not really a problem because it's not really in contrast to what I've learned before. I'm just treating it as a whole new thing and I'm absorbing it. It's not really conflicting with anything else that I've learned. So yeah, it's good. Yeah, there you go.
Well, good.
Yeah, I look forward to breaking it all down. You know?
I'm certainly glad you're back from your vacation now, and back out here where you actually belong, my man, just so you
Yeah,
know.
yeah, man.
So, you know, vacation is good for everybody. One of these days I'll get one too. But I am certainly glad to have you back. I know Cody's glad to have that you're back from your vacation. So awesome. Good to see you again, dude. Good to see you again.
Miami Dolphins Buffalo game Sunday. And then we're gonna go the Florida Panther game Thursday.
All right, guys, let's get back into it. Let's do it.
One day.
Guys,
Do it.
Where's that at?
Outside St. Cloud.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, St. Cloud.
So a little bit further south.
Yeah, they're by Orlando and down there.
Okay.
Okay. Here we go. Is everybody back? Do we have everybody back? Kate, is
I'm a
your
little
team
concerned
back?
that we only have Cam's head back, just sitting there like a little shrunken head.
Yeah, you know what? This is weird for me to see Cam because on a phone call, we can actually see Cam. Usually with Cam, all we see is that. So this is really weird. Because usually Cam is just that. Okay, so let's get started. Everybody on here at some point in time, and we should have this for everybody this month. Okay. I'm assuming all the MSPs have reached out to Brett South already to get access for all the seniors for Company Cam. Is that correct? Have you all have done that yet? If you haven't,
Mary, you said
make
you were
sure
reaching out to him about that.
do what?
No, you said you were reaching out to him about that.
Yeah, I told him, I will go ahead and let him know one more time, and then I'll tell you guys, hey, let's jump on this, but we're gonna get everybody access to Company Cam. So here's how this is gonna work. What I suggest, some of you are gonna have a problem with it, some of you are not. It's up to you. But what I suggest is when you first get to this house, I automatically assume that we're gonna go ahead and pitch this. So when we get Company Cam, we have to take 4 pictures. We need a picture of the front of the house, the left side of the house, and the right side of the house, and in the back of the house. Typically, what I would do is I take the picture right away, take the picture of the left, take the picture of the right, and then I go and knock on the door. Or when you go back to your car to get your window sample out, you can tell the customer at that point there, if you want to, this is what I'm going to do real quick, and here's why. But we have to at least create the account in Company Cam. It's very easy. It's very simple. And it's got to be easy and simple. If my goofy ass can do it, then you know it's got to be easy. Because I struggle with texting. So you know this is going to be easy. Okay. All you got to do is get on Company Cam. Hit yes, you want to take a picture. It's going to ask you, are you at this address? You say yes. You put the customer's name in it. You take the picture. You're done. That's the extent it takes to sit there and create the account. It is very, very, very easy. Very easy. Okay. So we start there. Then we'll go do what we got to do. So right now we have gone through our entry and it's time to warm up. So let's talk about warm up for a minute. Okay. Warming up can be very difficult for some people. Warming up can be very difficult for some customers. All right. Some customers, when you walk in, they want to go straight to business. You got to get them off that business as quick as you can. Okay. Sometimes you have to give up a little to get a little. I get it. Then give up a little. But if you get too far into talking about business, you're not going to be able to warm up very well, which is going to be a challenge later. Okay. The better the warm up is, warming up is for 2 reasons, really and truly. Number one, to obviously do the part that we're wanting to do is make a friend and create an atmosphere conducive for selling. But the second advantage to warming up is typically the length of time a customer allows you to warm up. Also is very, very, very indicative of how long you'll have an opportunity to close as well. If they're rushing you through the warm-up and hurry, chances are when you get into the close, they're going to do the same thing. So that also, the warm-up also tells us what we'll be able to get away with in the close a lot of times, okay? But those two usually work together. Usually the length of time a customer allows you to warm up is going to be the same way they'll allow you to close. And as most of you here know, the longer and the better opportunity you have and the longer opportunity you have to close, the easier closing becomes. Would we agree with that?
Yes.
Okay, so that's why the warm-up is important. At the same time, too, the better friends we make with people, the easier it is to maybe say some tough things that we may have to sit there and say that may make things a little uncomfortable for everybody, but we may have to sit there and say it. The better friends we make, the easier it is to go ahead and say these tough things. For example, again, Mr. Jenkins, I'm not picking on you, brother, but you come from Renewal by Anderson, where, as you know, even when I was out there, we certainly did things a little different in the close for sure. And we didn't have, we got on people from time to time. Would you agree with that, sir?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. You heard the ones you love.
Here's one for you then. The scenario is when you're in a house, you get down to the close, the husband says, yes, I want to buy. Or no, the husband says, I don't want to buy. I've been saving up for the last 5 years to buy a new Harley Davidson, and I'm going to get my damn motorcycle now. And the wife is saying, I like the windows. We want the windows. We can afford the windows. But the only way we can afford the windows is if the husband doesn't get their Harley Davidson. What do you usually tell a customer there, Mr. Jenkins? What would you usually say?
I've got several finance options. You don't have to sacrifice your Harley. We can finance this out for as long as you'd like. What are you comfortable with? Let me show you what I've got.
Well, the challenge I have with that, Mr. Jenkins, is though you've done a great job, sir, my problem is I can only afford one payment. I can't afford two. So if we get the payment to be able to buy the windows, means I'm not going to be able to get my Harley. And look, I hear what my wife is saying, but I'm not going to get, I've been waiting for 5 years, man. And we've been waiting to pay things off for 5 years. And I just can't swing both payments, boss.
No, I understand that. And I want you to get your Harley, and I appreciate that. Instead of doing the whole house, you've got 3 windows that are really bad. You've got this one in the kitchen and those 2 in the living room. Let's do those 3 windows now. Let's get that set up. Let's get that down to a very low monthly payment where you can afford your Harley and these 3 windows that are bad. Once we get these 3 windows bad, next year, let's come back out. Well, we can do it one at a time after that. I don't care. Or if your circumstances change, we can do 3 or 4 at that point. Well, let's at least get these 3 done.
Yeah, I hear you, sir. But the problem is I want to do all of them, or I don't want to do any of them at all.
And I understand that. You're like I am. I like when I decide to do something, I want to do it all and do it right. However, let's keep in perspective. You want to keep that Harley, and I get that. I have a Harley myself. I don't want Harley. We can piece this out. Let's just let me show you what payment options I have, and let's just piece it out. We'll do, even if we do 2 at a time, the 2 in the living room. Because the 2 in the living room are really bad. That's the ones that are drafty. That one's got that broken paint that you can't even see out of it, so frosted. Let's get those done. Get your Harley, and we'll work it out. Not a problem.
Okay, so check this out, guys. Here's what I mean by a better warm-up. Watch this. Now, this is brutal as hell. This is brutal. You're either going to get into a fight, or they're probably going to say yes. But as a friend, I can say this. As a not too good a friend, because I didn't warm up very well, I'm not going to be able to get away with what I get away with right now. So let me go a different way. So Mr. Jenkins, let me ask you a question. You're saying you want to go ahead and get your Harley, but you can't afford both payments, and your wife says you can afford it. You guys want it, but you just can't do both. Is that correct, sir?
Yep, absolutely. Okay. That's correct.
If you don't mind my asking, sir, let's get off of windows for a quick second, sir. you don't mind me asking, how long have you and your wife been married, sir?
23 years.
How long?
23 years.
23 years. Boy, howdy, that's a long time. Congratulations. Let me ask you this, sir. Did you get married in a church?
Yes.
Okay. I'm assuming, sir, it was a lot for you the same way it was for me. Okay. And what I mean by that is I remember standing up in the front of the church, out in front of all my friends, my coworkers, my family. She started walking down the aisleway. And at that moment there, sir, the most beautiful woman in the world was walking towards me to be my wife because I asked a question and she said yes. Do you remember that feeling too, sir?
I do.
Okay. So let me ask you, as she's walking towards you, if somebody were to jump out of the crowd and want to throw an orange at her and hit her with an orange, would you run over there and jump in front of her to make sure she didn't get hit by that orange?
Absolutely.
No.
Right. And as you were walking out of the church, hand in hand, a taxi cab were to jump the curb and it looks like it's going to hit her. Would you push her out of the way and take that bumper so she didn't have to?
Absolutely.
So basically what you're saying, sir, there's nothing in the world you wouldn't have done for your wife, correct?
Right.
So as cold-blooded as this sounds, sir, and I hate to put it this way, as cold as this sounds, but I'm going to do it anyway, sir. After 22 years, what's changed? See, because 22 years ago, there's nothing in the world you wouldn't have done for her. You would have taken a bumper. It's 22 years later, and she can afford windows, and you want them, and she wants them. But your Harley Davidson is more important than she is. So after 22 years, what's changed? Here's what's chilly about that, sir. I know I'm putting you in a bad spot, but the way your wife is looking at you, sir, I think we both would like to know what's changed now. Okay.
Well, she got the kitchen last month, so.
Do what?
She got the new kitchen last year. I get the Harley this year.
Oh, okay. So again, once again, I do have to sit there and say, sir, because she's looking at you the same way I am. Again, after 22 years, what's changed? Because I didn't realize it was a tit for tat type of thing. Because there was a time when you would do anything in the world for her, and today you won't. See, as a friend, guys, I can say that shit. As a friend, I can say that. As a not friend, I say that, and me and my man probably go to Duke's at that point, and I'm being told to get the hell out before I get shot. Okay. Now, is that a little strong? Well, of course it is. Of course it's strong. But the point still being, I can't tell you how many deals like that I've sold. I can also sit there and tell you, I can't remember how many times I got tossed out of a house either. Okay. But I don't care about the times I got tossed out. All I care about is the times that I sat there and won. As a friend, we can say that. As a friend, there's going to be some tough things that we're going to be able to say. For example, we asked the question earlier, how long have you thought about replacing your windows and doors? They sat there and said 2 years, 3 years, whatever it may be. Now we get down into the close and the customer is telling us, well, we need to go ahead and think about this. We never make a one-day decision. Well, let me ask you a question, Mr. Customer. If I could do all the windows in your house for 20 bucks a month, would you do it? Well, you can't do it for 20 bucks. Maybe I can, maybe I can't. The point is would you do it though? Well, for 20 bucks a month, yeah, I would do it. So here's what we now know. Number one, what we know is you will in fact make a one-day decision. We just got to make the price right. Number two, keep in mind, no is a one-day decision also. It's just not a yes one-day decision. And when we look at this, there are two things that I've learned in this industry forever. One, if you don't at least get started, you're not going to. And two, what I mean by that is you've been waiting 3 years to do your windows and you still haven't done anything yet. Because of your procrastination, and I don't mean it in a bad way when I say that, you know, if you'd have just done 3 windows a year, you've done 9 windows and you'd only be doing 7 windows today and you wouldn't have the heartburn because of 16. The second thing I've learned is you don't sit there and if you don't, nobody pays more money tomorrow when they could have saved it today. As a friend, I can say those things. As a friend, I can tell somebody that they're procrastinating. As a friend, I can do that. But a person who's not a friend does not get away with that crap. Everybody in here that's a senior or everybody that's sold windows before, you all have found yourself in a closed situation where you know that there's something you're supposed to say, but you're worried that if you say what you're supposed to say or what you want to say, that it'll cost you the deal. Okay? We've all done it. And the reason why you had that feeling is because you did not make friends with those people. And there's where the first mistake is. The single most important part of our presentation is the warm-up. The warm-up is the foundation that we use to be able to do all the things that we're going to need to do, need to say, and how to sit there and say it. We have to sit there and build a good foundation. Your warm-up is it. Some people are going to buy just because it's you. I remember talking to Jimmy once upon a time when Jimmy sat there and told me that he was in a house. Man, I sold this one deal, and I asked them why they bought, and they said because of you, because they liked me, they trusted me. They didn't give a damn about the window. Everything else that came along after that was just a bonus. They liked Jimmy. Double J is who they like. That's why they bought. Okay, that's why they bought. Everybody on this call here who's ever sold windows before or anything before has had that happen to them. Kate hit me with that the second time I went to Seattle. Yeah, there is one deal I sold that the guy bought because of me. Didn't care about anything else. They liked me. Because a friend has that kind of power over people. Somebody that's not a friend doesn't do that. Okay? And people don't buy things from people that they don't trust, no matter how bad they want the product. Unless you're buying drugs on a street corner, that's different. Past that, you don't trust or like somebody, you don't buy from. So warming up is the big thing. So how do we warm up? Again, the easiest way I have found to warm up with a customer is to get them to help me. Get them to help you. That's the easiest thing. And I don't mean go out there and move furniture and shit. Although that would be pretty cool if they were to go out there and help you come to the crib to help you move some furniture. But, so the easiest thing is, let me ask you a question, folks, before we get started. How long have you all lived here? Lived here for 7 years. Fantastic. Here's the reason why I'm asking. My wife and I just moved here. My girlfriend and I live in an apartment, and now we're pregnant. We're looking to get into a bigger place, whatever it may be. I saw a couple houses for sale in the neighborhood. Okay. Let me ask you, would this be a good neighborhood to sit there and live in right now? I know you live here now, but would it be a good place to start out at? Yeah, it'd be great. Really. So after 7 years, let me ask you a question. If you had to do it all over again, would you still pick this neighborhood? Would you still pick it? Okay. What's the crime rate like? Is it noisy here? How are your neighbors? You know, do they seem to be cool people? You know, am I gonna have to worry about locking my door every time I turn around? Not only that, some of this information will help us. If they sit there and say, yeah, the crime rate's gone up, awesome. We're telling everybody that our windows are a lot more energy efficient and more secure. Security is a deal you can't put a dollar amount on. I can assure you of that, guys, as an ex-cop, I'm telling you, there is no price you can put on security. None. And that's one of the things that we want to talk about with our product. Our product is not only more energy efficient, but it's more secure than other windows. Now, I'm not saying that our windows are going to sit there and they're all bulletproof and they're burglar proof. I mean, hell, if you have enough moxie and you got stones big enough, you know, you can sit there and rob Fort Knox if you have the arrogance and the moxie for it. Okay. So I'm not saying our windows are burglar proof, but what I am sitting there saying is windows like ours, much harder for a crook to break in. And I would much rather feel sorry for my neighbor because they were broken into than them feel sorry for me because I was. Okay. So security is an issue that we want to talk about. So being able to ask somebody, what is the crime rate like out here? If I were to move in here, what's it like out here? That's a wonderful question for us to ask to get some information. Plus, the average person wants to help. They want to. You take a gentleman out there in Seattle, Portland, Tanner. That's you off to my left, right? Tanner, is that you?
Yes, sir.
Okay. You take you look at Tanner. Everybody look at this guy. He looks like he's 12. He looks like he's 12 years old. But even for
Same without the beard.
Do what?
Should see him without the beard.
Well, yeah, then he looked like he was 9, you know. But this works even for somebody that looks like they're 12 years old. Hey, look, Tanner, don't take this the wrong way, brother. When you're pushing 60 like I am, my man, I still wish I looked like I was 12. Now I have a hard time sitting there telling everybody, yeah, you know, I know I look like 40. I'm only 40. We know that's bull crap. Okay. But this still even works for you. You know, folks, look, the reason why I'm asking is my girlfriend and I, we're pregnant now and we're living in an apartment right now, but we're having to sit there and move into a house. And this is the first time I've ever bought in a home before. And I saw a couple houses for sale. Let me ask you, would this be a good starter area? I guess if you want to say that for somebody like myself, what do you think? I mean, what are the schools like? You know, what's the crime rate like out here? This works even for you. There is no age limit on this. This works no matter what. You know, you look at my man, Mr. Jenkins, because my boy there looks like he's pushing 77, 78 years old. That's what it looks like, Mr. Jenkins. Okay. Even for him, he can stand there and say, or an old guy like me too, well, you know what? The house that we sit there and live in is a lot bigger. All of my kids are now moved on. You know, I sit there and walk like this all day. So we're trying to downsize. And I saw a couple houses. Would this be a nice area for us to go in? You know, is Walmart down the street? You know how us old folk like Walmart, you know, what's the places like out there? You know, no matter what age, you know, someday you'll get there too, just so you know, you know, someday you'll get there too. I don't think Mr. Jenkins and I, this right here, see this? This is not insured yet, just so you know. So I said yet. The point being is this conversation you can have regardless of your age, regardless of anything. The average customer, most of them will want to help you because the average person does want to help. They do. The average person wants to help. So that is a great warm-up question to start out with. How long y'all lived here? The reason I'm asking is this, and it doesn't matter what answer they give you. If they've only lived there for 60 years, 16 years, 6 years, or 6 minutes, you can still say the same thing. Really, you just lived here in the last 6 minutes. That's awesome. You guys are fast mover inners. I can see that. Let me ask you a question. Then obviously starting out here, looking at some of the houses that I saw out near this area, what caused you to pick this neighborhood? Why would I like something like this? What about this area caused you to sit there and do that? Do you have any kids? How old are they? What are the schools like that you found out? Did you look into that? You know, there is no way to get caught here. There's no way to get into trouble. And there's nothing here that sounds phony. It only sounds phony if you deliver it in a bad way. Other than that, very easy to warm up, very easy to get into. Okay. 99.9% of the time, that's what I do. 99.9, because it's virtually infallible that you can get into a conversation without it sounding phony. Okay. So that would be my suggestion, is to use that. Again, talk about it amongst yourselves too when you're off these calls, how everybody else chooses to do it. But what I have found is the easiest way that I don't have to do a lot of thinking is to ask that question, start out that way, and then go from there. Okay. Any questions about that right there? Does anybody like that? Don't like that? Think, yeah, that sounds kind of weird, you know, whatever. Okay, cool. As we're warming up though, we have to make sure that we ask the questions that we need to ask. Okay. What do we need to ask? Well, number one, is this their forever home? Okay. We got to find out. Folks, let me ask you a question. You know, I know you said you lived here for 12 years or 10 years or whatever it may be. I got to ask, I mean, is this one of these type of homes, folks, that you're going to live here forever? I mean, are they going to carry you out of here feet first, you think? Or how is that going to work? You know, why is it important? Well, it's important because if they're telling you they're going to leave in 4 or 5 years, number one, we want to dig into that. And number two, when we get to the portion where we start talking about our warranty, we're going to want to pound away at that warranty and how it is transferable. And for folks like yourself, it's probably going to be moving in 4 or 5 years. Okay. Here's what we do know. We live in a more energy efficient world now. People are more energy conscious. You take 2 houses that are exactly the same. Here's this, here's this, here's this. By adding windows to your house, here's what they are saying. You can improve the value of the home anywhere from 5 to as much as 10%, depending on the part of the country you live in, okay, and the type of home you have. We can have this type of a conversation, okay, which is something that we're going to have to do with some of these people. As Michelle brought up yesterday, which was a good call on Michelle's part, which was, well, I don't plan on living here. Why this, why this, why this? Great questions, but here's why though. You know, transferable warranty, more energy efficient home, makes the house easier to sell, improves the value of the home, okay? So some numbers for you. They say, and again, most of you have heard me say this before, I have no idea who the hell they is, but I know they exist because everybody always talks about the proverbial they, okay? Most remodeling magazines that you read, things like that, most of these magazines are going to tell you several things. Number one, a vinyl window typically raises the value of your home about $16,000, $14,600, something like that. Whereas wood around 16 grand, again, depending on the part of the country you live in. Other magazines will tell you that it improves the value of the house anywhere from 5 to as much as 10%. Again, depending on the part of the country that you live in. Take whatever metrics you want to sit there and take. But the point still being is it does raise the value of the home. It does give the customer the right to ask for more money and maybe sit there and make a few dollars more than what they were hoping for by investing a few dollars into it to make the house more comfortable for them while they're living there, to make the house more secure for them while they're living there, and at the same time improve the value of the home, improve the energy efficiency for the people that are moving in, and to cover with a great warranty at the same time. So that question is important. We do want to know if these people plan on living there forever, and if not, how long, so we can have the correct conversation with them as we go through this. Does that make sense for everybody? Okay, so that is important. The second question that we have to make sure that we're asking one way, shape, or form or another is, when you do a project like this, folks, I've got to ask you, is there anybody that helps you make this kind of a decision? That is primarily very important for the elderly. And just so you know, I mean elderly as in older than me and Mr. Jenkins, just so you know. 60 years old is not elderly, just so you know, okay? But you start getting into these folks that are late 60s, early 70s, especially if they're single elderly people, especially if they're single elderly. A lot of times they have a family member that helps with a lot of things. Sometimes it's financially, sometimes it's just to seek good advice, okay? We have to know that so we can ask that question. So when you do a project like this, Cameron, is there anybody that sits there and helps you do or make this type of a decision, sir? Is there?
My parents.
Your parents do. So let me ask you, when they help you with this decision, do they help you financially and help you pay for this? Or is this something you just seek good advice because you got great parents that know a lot of stuff?
I'll be taking care of it financially. They're just going to give me advice.
Okay, well, you've certainly done a good job this long taking their advice, so I would understand why you do that. Cool. At this point, I'll move forward and I won't worry about this, and I'll address this later on. I can address this later. This is pretty easy. However, if his answer is, my parents helped me pay for this, really, they helped me pay for it. So out of curiosity, sir, where do they live? Do they live here in the Seattle area, or they live, you know, like in, I don't know, Florida or something? Where do they live?
They live in the Seattle area.
Okay, so are you open to suggestion at this point, Cameron?
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and do this, sir. Let's reschedule this when your parents are here, and here's why. It's not that you can't make a decision, but if your parents are going to sit there and help you pay for this, it's only right and fair to them as well that they understand what they're also helping to buy, okay? There's a lot of information that we're going to be able to go over, sir. The truth be told, you're not going to be able to remember everything. And the only reason why I know this, sir, is I have to go through a 4, 5, 6 week training class just to be able to explain windows and give all the information I need to be able to give. And I'm going to give you a crash course here in the next hour and a half or so. So truth be told, this way they can ask the questions that they have. And at that point in time, once we get their input and get yours, and I offer mine, then we'll get these puppies all measured up, see what we can do to help one another or not. Does that sound fair to you, sir?
Sounds good.
Okay, so I would sit there and say at that point there, I would want to try to reschedule that. However, if your parents were to live in, say, Florida or New York or whatever it may be, well, that is unfortunate, but that's one of those ones that we're gonna have to be able to sit there and pitch that, okay? Can you call these people up on the phone? Look, I've seen a lot of king shit salesmen that'll sit there and say, well, I just get the customer on the phone. What a load of crap. What a load of crap that is. Because here's what you're hoping for, and it is a true hope. It is a hope. You are hoping when you get that customer on the phone that they're gonna sit there and tell the kid or the parents or whoever, do you like it? Can you afford it? Do you need it? Then do it. That's what you're hoping for. Because nobody's gonna talk to you for an hour and a half on the damn telephone. They're just not gonna do it. Hope and prayer is not a plan. Hope and prayer is not a plan. If it was, and if it was a good plan, it would have worked out better for the people of Pompeii, but it didn't. So hope and prayer is not a plan. Okay, so we've got to put ourselves in a better position. Now that we know that the decision makers or that somebody giving advice is out of town, we will address that in the close. And there is a way that we can address that, and we will cover that when we get down into the close. But at least now we know. So now what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to pitch just a tad bit differently, knowing that a third baseman is involved. Okay, so those are the two big questions that we have to make sure that we're asking. The other question that we have to make sure that we ask that is not on here, we've got to ask if they own the house, guys. So the easiest way to sit there and do it is with the warm-up question. Instead of asking how long you lived here, let me ask you a question, folks. How long have you owned the house out here? How long have you lived here then? We got to know. We've got a couple situations right now where a job was sold, and it turns out that the customer did not own the house. And now after the windows have been ordered and they're now in, the customer now wants bailed out of it, saying that the contract is void because I don't own the house, so you people are screwed. All because we didn't find out whether they own the house or not, okay? Customer signed all the paperwork posing as owners, but they're not. So asking if they own the house, we have to sit there and find that out, because the reality is if they don't own the house, the homeowner has to sign the contract no matter who pays for it. It doesn't matter who pays for it. If the homeowner doesn't sign the contract, even if we put the windows in and the customer sits there and, hey, no yawning, no yawning, I saw that. I'm just messing with you, Miss Michelle. So Michelle's got her Unabomber look going on right now. Is it really cold in here?
I cut my hair short now, my neck gets cold.
Oh, okay. Well, then if that's the case, you would not want to be in my office right about now. My thermostat is at 62 degrees. 62. Diana was here. She'll personally tell you that that's not a joke. I keep it cold. So personally, I think she's just being a pansy about the whole thing and wanted attention. So we have to make sure, because even if a customer pays for the job, that homeowner 6 months, 7 months, 8 months later, whatever it is, can come back and sue us for quote unquote damaging the home. And they'll win too. Horrifically, they will win. Extremely easy. Even somebody like me who's not a lawyer, I can win that case without a lawyer. That's how easy it is to win. So we got to make sure that in our warm-up, we're finding out if they own the house. We have to make sure of that. Now, if a customer is going to lie to us, there's nothing we can do about a liar, guys. There's nothing we can do about it. But at least make sure we do our due diligence, at least to ask the question. Okay? Again, once we've warmed up enough and we felt like we've warmed up enough, at that point there, we want to sit there, and again, I always apologize. You don't have to if you don't want to, but I always do. I always sit there and tell the people, okay, folks, windows. I apologize for chattering like a chipmunk, folks. I'm a visitor, so I do apologize. But I know windows is what you want to talk about. So let's go ahead and get into that. Let me ask you a question. How long have you folks thought about replacing your windows and doors? Asking that question, it immediately sounds like we're getting ready to get into business now. That's why I don't like asking that question in the warm-up, because it invites business conversation. And I prefer not to do that. Okay. Some people can do it and handle it and get away with it, and that's fine for those that can, no problem. Me personally, I just choose to sit there and not do it, so I use it as my transition question to get ready to get into everything else. So, how long have you thought about replacing your windows and doors? Boom, 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 boom. Fantastic. Okay. Let me explain. Let me ask you a question. Now we're going to ask our hot button question. So let me ask you, when you take your old windows out and you put your new windows in, what exactly do you want your new windows to do for you? And be specific, Shadow. Be specific, sir. What are you looking for? Or be specific, Diana. What are you looking for? Volunteer a customer. Volunteer. Do not just ask the question blank, or I swear to you, what they'll do is they'll look at each other and they'll look at you and they'll look at each other half the time. So just pick one out. Who you choose, whatever name comes into your mind. So in this case, you know, when you take your old one out, put your new windows in, what exactly, folks, you want your new windows to do for you? Let me ask you, Shadow, what are you looking for?
Windows that operate. I'd like to open my windows.
Open and closing is kind of important. I can see that. Diana, do you agree with that too? You want your windows open and closed?
Yeah.
Okay. What else? What's important to you, ma'am?
Energy efficiency is important to me.
Ah, I get that. Energy efficiency. Okay, I can see that too for sure. Sir, do you feel the same way?
Yeah, I guess.
You guess. All right. Well, it's more important to her than it is to you. So what else is important to you, sir?
Something that would keep like the sun out. It'd be nice to like not have it get so hot and everything. So I guess energy efficiency is probably a little bit more important to me, I guess. Yeah.
It is. Let me ask you a question, Miss Diana. How long have you two been married?
10 years.
10 years. Has he always not known what the hell he's talking about, ma'am? He's always like,
Yeah, that's why we're married.
just wondering.
All right, we got 2 more to go.
Just wondering. Okay, so the point is, the way this works is you get an answer from one, verify with the other, get their answer, re-verify with the other. This way we keep everybody involved. Nobody gets to sit there and take a time out. And you keep one person from dominating the conversation. Because there are some houses you're going to go into where the wife or the husband is going to try to dominate everything. Where you ask her, man, let me ask you this, and he's answering for her. Cut that guy off and look at him and say, what are you doing? You don't get to answer all of the questions. Hold on from, you know what? Is he like, you tell me, man. Tell me. Okay. If that's what you got to do, that's what you got to do. You cannot let one person dominate the conversation. It's their home. Believe me when I tell you, 98% of everybody doing anything for their home, it's a mutual decision, not just a one-person decision. It's their home. That's different than sitting there painting their car. That's different than sitting there and doing shit like that. You know, I could buy my wife a $70,000 diamond ring and bring it home to her and say, surprise. And she'll go, oh my gosh, babe. Oh, I can't believe you did this. This is gorgeous. Can we afford this? Oh my gosh, this is, you sure we can afford this? She'll do that, but she'll still put that puppy on and not be mad that I did it. But I make a $30,000 decision for the house and I not check with my wife. It's cold in the couch. It's cold on the couch, even in the summertime in Phoenix, Arizona. Okay. So nobody sits there and makes a decision about their home like that without checking for their spouse for the most part. They don't. So we've got to keep everybody involved. You're writing your answers down on your talking pad because these answers that you're getting, we are going to use the answers when we start to inspect. So we get all the answers from the customers that we need to do. Now what we need to do is explain to them, you know, well, obviously after the transition question, we want to make sure that we're setting up the agenda. So I just want that to be clear. I'm assuming you guys already knew that, so I apologize. So the transition question we're going to ask, we have to set up the agenda to let them know exactly what we're going to do. Then when we go to inspect, after we ask the hot button question, let them know how we're going to map their house out. Mr. and Mrs. Blaylock, we start at your front door here, and we're gonna take the closest window to the right, and we're gonna move in a clockwise movement here. Line 101, 102, 103, 104, so we can keep track of everything and what room and everything it's going to be in. And then from there, we're gonna go into inspect. As we inspect, we'll use their answers that they gave us. So let's talk about what to look for. Okay.
Real quick, before you move on, I just have one question. When we're going around the house, and I kept meaning to ask you this, we're going 101, 102, 103. Do you care when there's like a transom window or vertically stacked windows about which order that is? Like which one, if it's 201 and 202 and it's a double hung with a transom, does it matter which one's 201 and which one's 202? You want that being consistent?
Well, so transoms are a little different than second story windows, right? So if you have, the first window is 101 because it's next to the door. Let's say the next window is 102, but about 6 inches above that, you have a round top, or you have a transom window, if you want to call it that. That's going to be 103. And then we'll come back on 114.
Left to right, bottom to top.
That is correct. Left to right, bottom to top. Okay. It's the same thing with your windows, right? If you were going to temper the bottom half versus the top half, which is sash number 1? Your bottom is. Sash 1 is the bottom, sash number 2 is your top. Okay. So we're going to number the same way. 101, 102, 103 here. That's on transom windows. And for those of you who do not understand what that is, or mold units, we'll explain that later. Second story windows, we'll then get into 201, 202, 203. Okay. So on that, what happened to my thumbs up? There it is. Okay. So I thought it was broken for a minute. So that's how we want to number the windows. Okay. So as we go to inspect, there are things that we need to go ahead and look at. So let's talk about this. Now, a lot of the stuff that we're going to talk about, your MSPs and some of your seniors that have done this before already, they can go ahead and get more into detail with you on this. But I do want to go ahead and explain and put some things out. So let's talk about a few things here. Number 1, what weather stripping. I'm assuming we all know what weather stripping is, okay? We want to inspect weather stripping. Is there even weather stripping? Is the weather stripping all worn out? You had your hand up, Big Game. What's up, buddy?
So this, you're into your inspection, right? This would be the start of your inspection process.
Yes, sir. Hey, do me a favor if you can, Big Game. I don't know if this works for you. Can you move back towards Cam? Because I can't see you, brother. I just see an ear. There he is. There he is. I can see him now. For a minute, man, I was only going to be able to recognize you by your right ear. So, what was your question again, brother?
So would this be the intro into like your inspection?
Yes. So as we're getting ready to start to inspect here, these are the things that we're looking for. It doesn't have to be in any particular order. These are just the things that we want to make sure we're covering. Weather stripping is number 1. Another thing too is going to be 90-degree interlocking rails. Okay, 90-degree interlocking rail. So for those of you who do not know what an interlocking rail is, when a sliding window slides side to side or a window goes up and down, a 90-degree interlocking rail will be the part where the window closes and joins together in the middle, whether it's on a slider or on an up and down window, a single hung or a double hung. Not all windows have 90-degree interlocking rails. So we want to make sure, are there 90-degree interlocking rails? And at the same time, if there is there some sort of weather stripping or some sort of weather prevention or air prevention strip there some way, somehow? A lot of these old single hung anodized aluminum windows or single sliding anodized aluminum windows, they will not have that. They may have the interlocking rail, but the chances are the weather stripping is either gone or there was never anything there to begin with. Just depends on how old the window is. Okay. So we want to go ahead and check for that. The other thing that we want to look at is the glass stops. Glass stops. So what are glass stops? On a window, like say a single pane window, on the outside, a glass stop is going to be a little piece of plastic that's about a half an inch tall, 3/4 of an inch tall, that goes all the way around the edge of the window. When that window is being replaced, what somebody does is they come in and they pull out all the plastic strip, the glass stops. They pull that out. The single pane window comes out. The new window goes in, and then the glass stops go in after that. So your glass stop is what stops the window from coming out. Okay. All windows have a glass stop, whether it's a single pane or a double pane. All windows have glass stops. Sometimes the glass stops are inside, sometimes they're outside, but all windows do. You're paying attention to the ones that have the glass stops on the outside, because if those glass stops are damaged in any way, shape, or form, obviously the integrity of the window is not going to be as good, but at the same time, that's a dirt and dust and air infiltration point there. Okay. So again, if dirt and dust is getting in, that means heating and cooling is coming out. Okay. So that's one thing that we want to be able to look at, is that. As we talked about yesterday, the other thing that we want to look at is the miter corners. Or the box and butted in. Okay, mitered corners, both inside and out. You've got a 45-degree angle, that's a mitered corner. Okay, on a mitered corner, on a lot of times on these aluminum windows, as the house sits there and settles, and what happens is these mitered corners will split. Okay, and you'll be able to see it right away. This is nothing that you're gonna have to use a magnifying glass for. You'll be able to see this. Well, that mitered corner starts to split apart. That means dirt and dust and air can come in. Okay, same thing with the boxed and butted in. These boxed and butted ends, they start sitting there and splitting up a little bit. Again, air infiltration. So we want to talk about these boxed and butted ends, and we want to pay attention to those and look at that. Okay, that's something to pay attention to, is that. Obviously, another thing we want to look at too is locks. Are there locks? Do they even lock? Do they unlock? Okay. Obviously, we want to make mountains out of molehills. You guys will be surprised how many houses you're going to go to where they don't have a lock on the window at all because it broke. Or that they do have a lock on the window, but the damn thing won't unlock. It's a pain in the behind. Well, that can't be good, Mr. and Mrs. Customer. What if you have a fire here? How do you get out? Okay, somebody's got to be able to get out, you know? That's an important thing. If they don't lock at all, well, that's a security issue there. We certainly want to make sure all of our windows are locked and closed. So check the locks. The other thing that we want to do and look at is after the window is locked, we want to check for rattling. Okay. Once the window locks, we want to check for rattling. So what you're going to want to do, especially on a sliding window, sliders are worse than single hungs are. Sliders are worse. You lock that window, you kind of push on the glass a little bit and see if this window rattles. If the window rattles, that can't be a good thing, right? That can't be. That means when the air pushes up against the window pushes open slightly. Again, dirt and dust and air infiltration comes into the house. And if air and stuff is coming in, that means hot air or cool air, depending on the time of the year, it's also going out. Okay. So we want to make sure that we're watching out for that as well. All right. Another thing to be able to look at is oxidation. On aluminum anodized aluminum windows, is there any oxidation going on? Is it oxidizing in any way? You'll be able to see that. Okay, you'll be able to see that. When we're looking too, you want to look into the tracks. Look into the track where the window slides back and forth. Let's look down in there. Let's see what's there. Is there dirt? Is there dust there? Is it black? Is there any mold growing in there? If it is black, you know, chances are if it's an anodized aluminum window, that's because over the years, that window is grinded up against each other, sliding back and forth, causing that window to sit there and deteriorate, which is part of the reason why that window is rattling also. Because each time they open and close it, it shaves a little bit more of the window off, and over time, it gets to the point where it starts to rattle. So looking into your tracks is a big deal, okay? Looking for mold and mildew. Mold and mildew is a thing. We want to sit there and talk about that. We certainly don't want to sit there and be breathing this mold and mildew in, do we? So again, something to be able to sit there and look at, to inspect, to look at, all right? Mold is the same thing for wood windows. A lot of these wood windows, especially in these areas like Portland, like Seattle, where you get a lot of rain and whatnot, you see a lot of rotted windows out there. You see a lot of windows that are not only rotted out, but they also have mold and they have mildew on it, and you can sit there and see it. Same thing with a double pane window. So a lot of double pane windows, you'll see these white little specks inside the window along the spacer. Chances are the seal has failed a little bit on that, and that white speck, that's mold also, guys. Okay, that's mold also. Mold doesn't have to be black for it to be mold. Mold can be white also. You know, the little white speck on the top of chicken shit, that's chicken shit too, just so you know. Okay, so mold can be white, and you'll see that in some of these aluminum windows that have condensation in between the two panes of glass. You'll be able to see that mold in there at times. So mold doesn't have to be just a single pane window. It can be double pane as well. Okay, so we want to look for stuff like that. Let me pause here for a minute and then bring up some stuff here. So condensation in between two panes of glass. Okay, when you get these contractor grade double pane windows, 99.9% of them are all going to be aluminum. All right. We see condensation a lot in between the two panes of glass on these older windows. All right. The question on the table is what causes that? Now, the typical answer that all reps will give is they'll sit there and say, oh, your seal has gone bad. The seal broke. Well, no shit, Mr. Captain Obvious. No kidding. No kidding, the seal broke. That's why you got condensation in it. The question on the table is why. This is an opportunity for us here to be the window expert. This is our chance to be the expert now, to explain what causes a double pane window to condensate. So here's what happens, okay? Your standard aluminum double pane window is going to have a spacer bar in between the two panes of glass. So here's, my phone's going to be the spacer. You got one piece, you got your outer piece of glass, and you got your inner piece of glass. What they do is they put the three together like this. Then what they do is they glue seal all the way around it. And then what they'll do is they'll stick a tube in it, vacuum out the air, creating a dead air space. Okay? Or they'll put two tubes in it, pump argon gas into it, filling the window up with argon gas, and then forcing the air out of the other tube. And then you have your thermally insulated window. Now, a standard contractor grade double pane window does not have, nor has it ever had, argon gas in it. Most customers believe that all double pane windows have gas. That's BS. That is not true. These double pane aluminum windows that you see, especially when they're contractor grade, has never had argon gas in them, ever. They're all vacuumed out dead airspace, is what it is. Again, our opportunity to sound like an expert here. So, Mr. and Mrs. Customer, here's the deal. And I want to explain this to you folks so you understand why this is what it is. What's caused your condensation is the obvious, the seal is broken. Now, that's the obvious part. Question on the table is why? Well, number one, this window has never had gas in it, though people will sit there and think it is. This is just a dead airspace double pane window, okay? Just because the window is double pane doesn't mean it has gas. These contractor grade has never had gas. But here's what happens. What they do is they take an aluminum spacer like you see here. They take the two pieces of glass, one outer, one inner. They put everything together. They glue seal all the way around it. They stick a tube in it, vacuum out the air, creating a dead airspace, and voila, you have your double pane window. Or what they'll do is they'll put a tube in it, fill it with argon gas, fills it up this way, forces the air out of the other tube, and then what you'll have is your thermally insulated window. The challenge isn't whether it's got gas in it or not. That's not your problem. The problem is the glass and the aluminum. Glass and aluminum each have different thermal temperatures, Mr. and Mrs. Customer. Meaning, your outs, they each heat and cool at different rates. Therefore, they expand and contract at different times. So your outer piece of glass will expand and contract at one rate. It's touching your aluminum, which your aluminum expands and contracts at a different rate, which is touching your inner piece of glass, which expands and contracts at a completely different rate altogether because of the difference in temperature from the inside to the outside. This difference in movement causes the seal to crack over time. When the seal cracks over time, that allows for condensation and moisture to go ahead and get in. Now, at times, when you guys are out there inspecting windows, some of these windows that have condensation in between the two panes of glass, check the corners of the windows, both inside and out. And a lot of times what you'll find is if you have a window like this, a lot of times you'll see a little crack, like a moon in the corners. It'll be a little crack. Chances are what that is called an expansion crack, okay? You don't see an impact spot, but what it is an expansion crack. What that means is moisture got in. As that moisture is trying to evaporate out, new moisture is trying to come in. So they start butting up against each other, and the window starts to expand in between the two panes, okay? What then happens is one of the two pieces of glass will crack, usually in the corners, to relieve pressure. That's an expansion crack. So when you see that, we want to explain that as we're talking about this, because all of this sounds like we are the expert. Because I can promise you, no window company, not even Renewal by Andersen, will get into this type of detail all the time. Because the average rep, this wasn't even taught to them at all. But that's why a window condensates. That's why seals fail. Seals fail because of the different thermal temperatures that aluminum and glass have. Now, your better windows, such as ours, such as Renewal by Andersen Pella, that's a little different. They're not going to use aluminum spacers. They're going to use stainless steel, first off. Stainless steel dissipates 5 times faster, or dissipates heat 5 times faster than aluminum, which is why they use it. But what they'll do is when they'll take their spacer, they'll put a piece of butyl rubber in between the spacer and the glass, okay? Which causes, there's no metal to glass contact. This is a lot. I get it. I get it. This is a lot. And obviously you guys can't write and keep up with this. However, this is recorded and you will hear me say this over and over again anyway, okay? So I know it's a lot. I know. All right. But again, when we're in a house and we see this, this is our opportunity to be the expert now. And we want to take full advantage of being able to be the expert. All right. What most window guys will tell you is, well, I've never needed to do that, and I sell $1 billion worth of windows. Awesome. Then you probably could have sold 1.3 billion if you did a little more of this. I don't care about what you sold. What did we lose not doing what we should have done? It's never the business that you sold, guys, that you want to pay attention to. It's what did you lose not doing what you should have done? Okay? Because no customer is ever going to tell you, you know what, I was going to buy from you, Jimmy Johns. I was Double J. I was going to do it. But the moment you started talking about how double pane windows condensate, I changed my mind. I'm not now gonna do it. Nobody has ever said that in the history of Windows, ever. So not doing it won't cause you a deal. Or won't, not doing it will cost you a deal. Doing it won't cost you one though, because nobody's ever said I'm not gonna buy it because of that. Okay, so these are the things that we have an opportunity to look at as we are inspecting to be able to see these things. Inferior double pane wood windows are the same way. Wood and aluminum have different thermal temperatures. They expand and contract at different rates. You're gonna have that same problem. Okay, same problem. So this works for all double pane windows unless you're dealing with a much better product, which happens to be one of the products that we put out, which happens to be one of the products that RBA or Pelham then put out. So we just have to know what the difference between our better product versus their better product is. So stopping here for a quick second. Questions about this part so far, because there's more we're going to add, but questions so far. Anybody? Some of you I can sit there and see you've got that deer in the headlight look. Ask your questions. It's cool, guys.
What year was it when it became common standard for argon to be, gas to be in the IGUs? I was told that was 2003, but I don't know if that's accurate.
Well, no, it's not accurate because see, the challenge is that's a hard question to answer. The argon gas and stuff like that varies, as does low E based on the part of the country that you're in. So for example, in the desert Southwest, we are required to have low E coating in our windows. That's required by law. Okay. In the desert Southwest, it is required by law to have low E. We also cannot put windows in that are not Energy Star rated. So certain windows, though you have good low E coating in it, you have to have the argon gas in it to be able to lower the U factor. Argon gas does not lower the solar heat gain coefficient of the product. Argon gas lowers the U factor just a smidge, but that just a smidge may be the difference between it meeting Energy Star versus not. Okay, so 2003 may be correct for up north, maybe, but I can tell you right now, we've had to have argon gas and stuff like that in our windows down in the desert Southwest, going all the way back to 1994, 1995. So that's a hard question for me to answer, bro, because it just depends on what part of the US you're in.
Yeah, I can see in Portland, not as critical, like for a while, not standard here.
Well, argon gas, truth be told, since we've talked about it a few times, then I'll just jump into that part for a minute. Argon gas, guys, is not an insulator at all. It is not an insulator, okay? If it was a true blue insulator, not only would it lower your U factor, but it would lower your solar heat gain coefficient as well. So for those of you who do not know what this is, when a window is given an energy efficiency rating, it's given an energy efficiency rating by a company called the NFRC, which stands for the National Fenestration Rating Council. That is the portion of the government that regulates the energy efficiency for windows. Okay. When a window is given an energy efficiency rating, it's primarily based on two things: your U factor and your solar heat gain coefficient, or SHGC. Your U factor describes the amount of heat you lose in the wintertime and what goes outside. Your solar heat gain has to do with the amount of heat that comes into the house in the summertime. Okay? None of that shit has anything to do with UV rays and all this other bull crap. Anybody saying that's full of crap, they don't know what you're talking about. Okay? When a window is given an energy efficiency rating, it's based on heat lost or heat gained. Cold does not play a factor in the testing of a window at the NFRC, ever. Cold has nothing to do with it. It's heat lost or heat gained, okay? If argon gas was an insulator, then it would lower your solar heat gain. In other words, keep less heat from coming in. And it would also lower your U factor, or in other words, keep heat from going out. And that's not the case. It doesn't change the solar heat gain. It just changes the U factor very little, very little. So what is it for and why do companies use it? All right. If I could stand in between a double pane window, and this is because obviously as little as I am, I probably could if I wasn't so round. But if I get in between a double pane window, and this edge of my board here was the outside piece of glass, and this edge of my board was the inside piece of glass, and the sun is shining, would it be safe to say that the closest to this piece of glass I get, the temperature would be hotter? Would you all agree?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, which means the closer to this piece of glass, the temperature would be.
Cooler.
That is correct. So what we learned in school a long time ago is this: hot air rises and cold air falls, and heat seeks cold. Okay, so what happens is as this piece of glass heats up, it causes the heat to rise. When the heat rises and it gets to the top of the window, it has nowhere else to go. And since heat seeks cold, the heat runs toward the colder spot. That temperature starts to fall because it starts to cool down. So what you get is you get the circulating of hot and cold air in between the two panes of glass. This circulating of hot and cold air is called convection. Most cooks, women, who like to cook, are familiar with convection because of convection ovens. Okay, convection ovens are a lot like these new air fryers. They don't particularly cook with heat or coils as they do with hot air. The faster the hot air moves, the faster it cooks, right? Well, as this hot and cold air tumbles in between the two panes of glass, it acts like a magnet. It literally sucks heat straight through the glass. The faster it moves, the more it grabs. Argon gas, however, number one, makes up approximately 1.5 to 2% of the air that we breathe. And argon gas is an inert gas, and it's also 5 times heavier than air. So by putting argon gas in between the two panes of glass, the air that's circulating like this slows down to this, okay? Another example I can give you is you take the room that you guys are in, fill it with 2 feet of water, start from one side of the room and run to the other side, no problem. Take the same room, fill it with 2 feet of peanut butter, start the same side and run to the other end. It's going to take you a minute to get there now. You're still going to be able to get through, but this is going to take a minute now, okay? That's what argon gas is. It's like adding peanut butter that you can see through in between the two panes of glass so we can slow down this tumbling of hot and cold air so it doesn't draw heat through the glass. And because it doesn't lower the solar heat gain, that cannot be considered an insulator, okay? However, because it is 5 times heavier than air, it does create a more dense air space in between the two panes of glass. It also helps cut back on outside noise. Not eliminate it, it helps cut back on it, okay? Krypton gas, however, which is another gas, does the same thing. The only difference is krypton gas is 7 times heavier than air, as opposed to argon being 5. But krypton is extremely expensive. The approximate difference is about 200 times the cost of the gas. So if argon gas costs $1, krypton would cost 200. The reason why most companies don't use it is because it'll take about 14 years for a customer to recoup just the gas difference alone in the heating and cooling between an argon gas filled window versus krypton. The other thing that makes krypton so expensive is how it's made. Argon gas is used primarily because it's the easiest gas to get. You supercool the air, the first gas that falls out is argon. Very easy to get and extremely plentiful, okay? That's why argon is primarily used, because it's the process to get it is easier. Krypton, a lot like nitrogen, is a pain in the ass to be able to get. So because it is, that pain in the keister causes that cost to sit there and go up. Part of the reason why Renewable by Andersen is a tad more expensive, for sure, is because they use an argon gas, nitrogen gas blend, okay? And there are reasons for that, and we can go ahead and get into that a little bit more because you're getting way granular now. But again, this is all information that's good for us to know, because as we're talking to our customers, again, we're telling them that we're going to give them the best information that we can give them so they can make the best decision for themselves and their family. This type of information not only makes us sound like the expert, makes it look like we're the expert, but for a lot of people, it will be appreciated. Others may not care. I don't give a shit about those ones that don't care. What we care about is the ones that do, because that's what's going to sell those type of people instead of missing those jobs. Okay. So that's really and truly what argon gas is, ladies and gents. That's really what it actually is. Yeah, Jim.
Yeah, I got a question. So are there like practical uses where you'll sell Krypton for noise cancellation benefits over argon? Like, is it enough to move the STC rating for like houses in like noisy areas, like next to an airport or a train or something like that?
No, truth be told, the difference between having Krypton versus argon when it comes to noise reduction, again, the difference is so minute. It isn't really going to make a huge difference, man. Okay. It's really not. Argon gas or Krypton gas compiled with a better low E coating, like a blue glass or something along those lines, will certainly cause the solar heat and everything to drop a little more. But in the end, the difference is very minute. The good thing about Krypton is, like other gases, such as nitrogen gas, argon gas blend, is it tells a good story. Okay. And that's the thing that we all need to remember. We're not salespeople, no matter what we think. What we are is we need to be good storytellers. Tell a story in a way that nobody has ever heard before. And they'll beg, cheat, borrow, and steal to buy your product if you can tell a better story. Okay. I'm sure most people here have heard of Joe Coy, the comedian, or Richard Pryor, or Eddie Murphy, or somebody like that. The funny thing about that is these guys will get on stage and they'll tell a joke and everybody dies laughing. You tell the same joke in a room with 20, 30 people and you don't get the same reaction. Why is that? Same joke. Well, because of how you told it. Delivery, voice inflection, faces that you made, all that other crap. There's a difference to it. Okay. So it's the same thing with us here. A lot of times where a sales rep messes up is they walk into a house where somebody has had other estimates before. And what we stop to remember, and what we don't remember, I should say, is the people we're getting ready to see is getting ready to hear this story for the first time from us, from me. I don't care how many other times they've heard it from others, but this is the first time from me. So what I need to do is sit there and tell a story in a way that they've never heard before. I mean, there are some people that you listen to and you say, man, I love to hear that guy talk. James Earl Jones, or what's the guy, the Allstate guy now, okay? With that real deep voice and all that. Sam Elliott, stuff like that, okay? They tell a better story based on their tonality and their voice and all that. That's what we have to remember. It doesn't matter how many times somebody has sat through a demonstration when we get there. They're sitting through it for the first time from you. Then tell a better story than everybody else did and earn that business that way. Okay. So, any questions about what I've explained to you so far before we get back to this? Anybody? Fire away, guys. Fire away.
How can anyone afford to make Krypton if it's that expensive? Or is it always like in a super small gap window? Or do they not use as much of it?
Yeah, I mean, what you're talking about, man, is you're filling an average space. It's only going to be, so that's actually a good question. So check this out. When you see a double pane window, for example, where we say our double pane window is 1 inch thick. Okay. Our double pane window isn't really 1 inch thick. It's 1 inch thick from outside piece of glass to outside. But from inside to inside, it's actually going to be closer to 7/8 or 3/4. Okay. The thickness of a double pane window doesn't describe the space in between. It describes the space on the outside. That's why my man, Mr. Jenkins, earlier was saying things like 5/16, things like that. Is because he obviously knows that it's here to here, not outside to outside. Okay. So the Krypton, what you're talking about with argon gas is kind of like a pizza. It really takes a pizza, a large 18-inch pizza, 3 toppings, $1.20 to actually make, 80 cents to make. Okay. It's the same way with Krypton. Argon gas may be about 30 cents, 40 cents, really. Whereas your Krypton is actually gonna sit there and be $20, $30, $40 or whatever it may be. But the space you're filling is very small. So a little goes a long way, if that makes sense, okay?
Yeah.
Most of these windows are not 100% filled. So to say that your window's got 100% argon gas or 100% krypton gas is kind of bullshit. And the reason why it's BS is because those gases expand. So if you were to put a double pane, take a double or triple pane window and 100% argon gas, fill it, then as the gas were to expand, it'll automatically blow the seals or blow the gas. So most windows are going to be 95% filled. Okay. So it can allow that 5% for the expansion. Okay. Kind of like nitrogen in the tires. A lot of these tires have nitrogen in them. Well, there's the reason why you got to be a little more careful with that than you do air, because as everything heats up, again, it starts to expand. Okay. So that's why, but again, most companies won't use Krypton, but it's just pricey. That's all. It's just pricey, you know, and the companies that are using it for the people that want it, they charge a premium price for it. But again, if you ask for it, people will pay for it. You just have to ask, you know, and that's, again, I'll go back to Renewal by Andersen. They do a good job about asking, and they leave it up to the people to sit there and say yes or no. So they put an expensive price out there and they tell a hell of a story, and people will say yes more often than not, you know? So that's why, you know, do what?
So at Renewal, we're always telling people that we got our glass from Cardinal Glass. That there's 5 glass manufacturers in the United States. Cardinal Glass is one of them. That's where they got all their glass from. The other 4 manufacturers, they cut corners. Cardinal doesn't. Is that bullshit?
100% bullshit. Yes.
You should go.
100% bullshit. Okay. So a lot of companies use Cardinal. The reason why they use Cardinal comes in at a pretty good price point. Not only that, the Cardinal part isn't so much the glass itself as it is the low E coating that they're using. The 366 is a pretty good coating. It really is. It's not the best low E coating in the country. The best low E coating in the country is put out by a company called Flat Glass North America, and that's the TIAC 23. And that's some wicked shit right there. That is wicked stuff. It's wicked. Okay. They call it the TIAC 23 because it has a solar heat gain coefficient of 0.23 on clear base glass, which is unbelievable. Unbelievable on clear base glass to be at 0.23. So we'll get more into that when we get into step 5. So yeah, that's bullshit. I mean, Pella uses Cardinal. Window Mart uses Cardinal, Milgard uses, I mean, a lot of these companies will use it. And the reason being is because it's the 366 they're trying to get to, right? The whole thing, you know, the whole constant spacer only joined on one side, so they're not in the corner. That's a load of bullshit. Okay, that's a load of bullshit. That's not what causes a window to condensate. That's a load of crap. That's a lie. But it tells a good story, though. And again,
well, the other thing that they told us that, well, the other thing I used in my sales pitch was argon gas is basically pink insulation that you put in your wall, but argon is the insulator that goes in your glass. And you're saying that it's not an insulator, so that's bullshit too.
That is 100% so much pure bullcrap, it's not even funny. And if the dude was made out of wood that told you that, he'd have a fucking nose about 9 blocks long.
Nice. All right.
Yeah, there is.
All right.
It is not an insulator at all. Again, when you start looking into windows with gas versus without, the number one thing that you'll see is your U factor will lower a little. And what I mean by a little, let's just say your U factor is say 0.30. It may lower it down to about 0.28, and that's it. It's not going to go from 30 down to 24, 23, 26. It may go down to 28 at most, but that's it. The primary reason for your inert gases is you have to slow down the tumbling of hot and cold air in between the 2 panes of glass. You have to slow it down. If you don't slow it down, it's going to draw heat. And that's what it's for. The fact that it reduces sound a little bit because it's more dense, that's just an added benefit of having the damn thing there. That's all. But it wasn't put in there for that. It was put in there to slow convection down. You've got to slow it down. This is where spacing becomes a challenge here, okay? When you take these 1/4 inch double pane windows that are 1/4 of an inch, all right? Whether it's got gas or not, it's not gonna matter shit, all right? Your problem isn't whether it's got gas or not when it's that way. The problem is the spacing is so close together. The challenge becomes convection now. Heat jumps from one piece of glass to another now because the spacing is too close together. So convection is not your problem. Conduction becomes your problem now. Okay. So it's like a flame. You don't have to put your hand in the flame to get a 3rd-degree burn. You just got to get close enough to it. You get close enough to it and it burns also. Okay. Double pane windows are the same way. When you start dealing with 1/4 inch and 1/2 inch spaces, the glass space itself is too close. So conduction becomes your challenge now. The heat or cold jumps from one piece of glass to the other. So you've got to create enough space to prevent that. So to start out with that, you need at least 5/8. At 5/8, you can prevent conduction more at 5/8 or greater. Okay. However, at 1 inch on some of these 1 inch super spacers, if you don't have gas in that, that's a really bad window now because you got so much space there. You got a lot of hot and cold air turning now, and that puppy becomes a big time magnet then, and it just sucks in heat. So that's why you have to have those to slow that down. But for conduction to go away, you need a space bare minimum of 5/8 or greater, which is the reason why Ella, Renewal by Anderson, and those guys are there. Truth be told, the optimum space on a double pane window is 7/8. That's optimal. At 7/8 means you have spacing of 3/4 of an inch in between the two panes of glass. So at 7/8 is actually your best for double pane. That's actually your best. Okay, is 7/8. So
Terry.
Do what?
I got a question. So inside of our window, so 1 inch outside to 1 inch outside to outside, and then we have another piece of glass on the inside here. So I mean that makes each of those chambers very small. I mean, kind of like a 1/4 inch, 3/8 inch spacer inside of there. So is the conduction more of an issue than the convection on our triple pane window?
It can be. It can be a little bit. That's the reason why some of the numbers that we get aren't actually even lower than other double pane or triple pane windows may be. It can, but you start getting into a different deal because there's 3 pieces of glass there. So I'm going to change gears a little bit to try to sit there and explain this. Truth be told, the best way to reduce sound in a double pane window is not gas. It's not laminated. It's none of that bullshit. Your best bet is to change the glass thickness. Okay. Your typical glass thicknesses are going to be 3 mil, 5 mil, and 6 mil. All right. If you were to take a double pane window and take a 3 mil piece and a 5 mil piece, or a 5 mil piece and a 6 mil piece, that actually is way cheaper to do and reduces sound much, 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 much better than even triple pane does. And the reason for it is because how sound passes through, it breaks up differently because of the different thicknesses, okay? Your triple pane window acts the same way. Though the spacing is closer together, as it sits there and jumps from one piece to another, it constantly reduces because it's passing through more things. It's not only passing through the first gas with the first glass, but the layer of argon and the space that's there, then gets to the second one, reduces a little further, gets to the third one, reduces a little further, before it actually gets to the other piece of glass. So if you think about that heat or that cold, it's got to go through your outer glass, your outer spacer, your inner glass, your inner spacer, and then your inner glass. So it's got to pass through 5 different things before it gets to where it got to get to. So each thing that it passes through, it drastically continues to reduce. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, totally. So it is more of a conduction process that's happening in there, but it still reduces it more because of the layers it has to go through.
Right, because of the layers it's passing through, okay? And you would think that sounds weird, it's all clear, it's all glass, well, not true. If you were to take for example, take a hole with no opening in, or no glass, no nothing, you just got a big ass hole, then you're getting 100% of the light to go through. Take that same hole and put a clear piece of glass, just clear piece. You're going to reduce that light by about 20 to 25%. Now, the human eye cannot pick up that difference, but it does reduce it because each time light passes through an object, clear or not, it reduces the light. Okay. So when you look at some of these double pane windows that we have, or the triple panes, where you see the visible light transmittance is 44%, 48%, 51%. What that's telling you is at 40%, that means it's reducing 60% of the light from coming through. Yet it doesn't appear to be that god awful dark because the human eye doesn't pick stuff up like that. You start getting the 37, 38, 35, and 30%, your damn human eye certainly picks that up right away. Okay. So it's the same way as the light passes through that clear object, it reduces the light. Each layer that the heat or the cold passes through, it drastically reduces it. Okay. So the benefit, does that make sense, guys?
Yeah. And that's also the reason that happens is it's reflecting part of the light off of the surface and on some of it to move through.
That would be correct. Okay. So truth be told, that's the way it actually works. By adding the argon gas in. Now, here's the good thing. Let's talk about low E coating for a minute since we're doing this. A double pane window, just so you know, you guys are going to hear this. So you need to be able to push this back. There are unfortunately a lot of unscrupulous companies out there, unfortunately. And these companies are going to sit there and tell you that low E, that they have 2 layers of low E coating, one on each piece of glass. That is 100% pure BS. The likelihood of that being that way is the same likelihood of me telling you that water is not wet. Okay. You cannot put 2 layers of low E coating on a double pane window, one layer on one side and another layer on the other piece of glass. That is impossible, and you can't do that. However, on a triple pane piece of glass, we can do that as long as you've got basically like this, guys. Can everybody see this?
Yes, sir.
Okay. It doesn't matter which is outside or inside, it doesn't matter. As long as you're putting the low E on the inside here, in here, or here and there, you can get away with that. What you cannot do is you cannot have a double pane and do here and here. That is impossible. The glass will break. The glass will bust. That's a fact. Okay. So the advantage with our triple pane window, part of the reason why we get lower numbers is because of the extra layer of low E coating we can put in. The reason why it's not drastically a lot better is also a lot of what Cody brought up. Because the spaces are so close together, the conduction jumping from one side to the other, though it drastically reduces it, it doesn't make it go away though. Okay. So with triple, you can have layers, multiple layers on each piece of glass. With double, you cannot. That is impossible. The question is why? Low E coating, in layman's terms, is a heat sensitive material that is put into the glass that reflects heat to the hottest side. Okay. That's what it is. Any other definition that you're getting where somebody tells you about, you know, all this other crap, whatever dumb bullshit that people say is all BS. The bottom line is it reflects heat to the hottest side. The problem is if you have go ahead.
How does tinted glass play into this then?
Huge difference. So tinted glass, it depends on what you're doing here. If you have a low E coated window, you cannot put an aftermarket tint on it. If you do, the glass is going to break. If you have low E coated and you want tint, the glass itself has to be discolored. They have to dye the glass at the factory. It has to be built into the glass, okay? The problem is by adding tint into a window with low E coating, you actually make the window less energy efficient, not more, okay? Your solar heat gain actually increases. It doesn't decrease. And the reason for it is because you've darkened the glass, therefore the glass is absorbing heat, and now it's fighting against the low E coating. The only time you use tint in a low E coated window is if you want more privacy or you want to cut back more glare. Other than that, you're not making the window more energy efficient. You're actually making it worse. You're not making it better. You're making it worse. Okay. With low E coating, since it reflects heat to the hottest side, in layman's terms, if you use this, some of the heat will hit, some of it goes away, some of it passes through and it goes in between the two panes of glass. Then it hits the low E coating on the other side and it reflects back to the other side. And what happens is the heat starts bouncing in between the two panes of glass. The faster it moves, the more energy it creates. The more energy it creates, it'll create enough energy until one of the two pieces of glass break. That's why you cannot do that on a double pane window. You guys are going to run into that a lot out there. There are a lot of companies out there where reps are telling, oh yeah, we have double low E coating on each piece of glass on a double pane window. That is pure bull crap. A bull face lie. That is a bull face. And if you are going to do it, the only way you can, and this is a big if, one has to be hard coated and the other one has to be soft. That'll give you your best chance. And even then, it's a 50-50 chance that it'll actually work. But one has to be soft coat and the other one has to be hard coat.
I've got a question. So when you talk about argon gas, how it kind of dissipates, like I think you said 40 years, you're going to lose half the amount of gas. Would that make like a triple pane with two coats better in the long run? Because both of them are going to lose gas, but ours is going to have two separate low E coatings, or does it?
I mean, it does. Low E coating typically, or argon gas typically dissipates at an average rate of about 1 to 1.5% a year. So basically 40 years or so from now, you're probably going to lose half your gas. Most of us on this phone call 40 years from now, we're probably more worried about getting to the bathroom on time than we will be worried about the gas. You know,
Sure.
I'm going to be 100 years old now. Tanner over there will probably be about 43 years old in 40 years. You know,
Brian did not get carded when he goes out for a drink.
You know, so anyway, we kind of got off topic, guys. I'm sorry about that. I don't want to make this a habit, but getting back into the inspection. So these are some of the things that we're looking for. There are other things that we can do to help ourselves. Again, I used to run around with these 3-inch by 3-inch, you know, white pieces of cloth. So on these double pane windows, I would go ahead and wipe so I can show the difference between the black and the brown where it's dirt. Hey, look at this black. This is oxidation that's going on. This is also your double pane or your aluminum window falling apart because as it glides, it grinds up against each other. Okay. Same thing on some of these wood windows in your guys' environments out there in Portland. You can probably testify to this. Seattle, you probably can too, where you see some of these wood windows. On the inside, if you were to sit there and take a white piece of cloth and wipe off where the window is at right next to the glass, you'll see some of that mold and black shit and that gooky crap that gets on. Yay or nay?
Yay.
Right. See, one of the things that we used to do back in the day, and I don't know if you want to do that nowadays or not because of social media, but back in our day, what we used to sit there and do is we would put on a mask when we went to inspect windows. And we put on plastic gloves, I kid you not, to sit there and tell people, look how cheesy this is and how bad this is. But with social media, it's a lot harder to get away with now because people get to tripping. So let's do this, guys. I am so sorry. I've got a hard stop right now. I've got a meeting with the CEO, the COO, and the vice president of the company. And when they send me an invitation, that is actually one I cannot ignore. Most everybody else's I would and would continue to keep going. So we got off tilt. We didn't stay on point. We'll be a little better with this tomorrow. So I need everybody to do me a favor today. I need everybody to go home, today, when it comes to study time, or get together with you guys, each other now. And let's get this 3 closes locked down now. Let's worry about that all the way to from the transition question, or from that and get to the transition question. Let's get to that part and pound away at that, and let's see how we do with that. So MSPs and teams, if you can work with them on that, and then we'll get back after tomorrow. I promise tomorrow, guys, you have my word. I will not allow us to get off point and get off tilt this tomorrow like we did today. So my apologies for that, and it won't happen again, I swear. Okay. Any questions before I go? Because I've got about 12 minutes to jump on this call. All right, listen, everybody. Thanks for your time and your courtesy. Again, you guys have questions, do me a favor, write some stuff down tonight. That way, when we start out this thing tomorrow, we can spend about 15 minutes jumping on those questions before we roll into what we need to roll into. We'll add more to this list tomorrow on the inspection, and then we'll get after it from there, okay?
Thanks, Terry.
Peace, everybody. You guys be good. Be safe. Take care.
Thanks, Terry.
All right, you too. Be good to each other. Bye-bye.
Yeah, Matt just, I.